Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
All right, let's roll, baby. It is Friday Eve, and Derek Gunn and Rob Ellis hanging out with you. Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Gunner,
what's up, my brother?
How are you? Everything good?
Yes. It's a great day. I had to run out and do a honey-do list for my wife. Anytime that one of the few times I don't complain about doing a honey-do list for her is when she says she's cooking. So I had to run to BJ's and get a beef chuck roast and some gold potatoes for, because when she cooks, she makes D-Gun's oversized belly happy. So.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. What's up? Hey, Chris D has settled. She's in
Portugal.
She's in Portugal now. She's in Lisbon, Portugal. Yeah, there you go. Made it, setting up life here now. All is sunny and beautiful. Good for you. Good for you, Chris. Yes, Nick Nurse is in the house. Yep.
Hey, Chris, how many hours are you behind or ahead of us?
Okay.
I'm curious. I want to know about different countries and stuff like that.
I'm with you. What's up, Tyler? What's up, Spanish Philly? What's up, Father Sean? What's up, John? Mood Swing Bella. What's up,
Mood
Griffin?
Swing Bella's back.
Jeremy. Yes, John. I did get a haircut. I got them all cut. I was a good boy.
John always notices that's insignificant stuff first.
Yeah, I know. I needed one, man. I was wolfing. It was time. It was time.
Wolfing.
It was bad, man.
What does that even mean?
It means it was like all incredible here. Great weather, amazing food, much cheaper than the U.S. and the peeps are very All right, good. I like it. I like it. Yeah, we'll get an update. What's up, Kevin? Yeah, Griffin noticing the new do. Appreciate it, people. Yeah, happy to be hanging out with you on this Thursday. We're getting the 80s today where we're at. So,
yeah, baby. Yeah, boy.
Connor will be a happy person, even though his birthday month that he wrote out just came to an end. Yes, we are June 1st. Yes, thank you. Yes. 5 hours ahead. Only 5 hours.
So that's like London, and London is 5 hours ahead of us.
Yes, Mood Swing Bella. Gunner is happy.
Mood Swing Bella, I'm sad the month of May is over, but I'm happy because we are surpassing 80 degrees, which means I can work on this golden tan.
That's right.
I can get all even now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 5 hours ahead. Okay, so it's 5 p.m. where Chris is. That's cool. A little happy hour. We're giving her some happy hour show. I like that.
Hey, Chris, do you have any family, friends over there, or is this just one of these mercenary moves where you're starting all over again and just getting acclimated to a new environment, new experiences, things like that?
I love that Christy's like a world traveler, man. That's awesome.
Yes.
Hawaii.
You gotta be rich to move. You go to Hawaii, from Hawaii to Portugal. You gotta be deep pockets to do something like that.
Maybe unless and she's a hustler though. She works a lot. So
or unless you on the run from the law. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
That's why we always say you're from an undisclosed location, Derek.
Yes.
That's why we don't give away too much information.
And rightfully so. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need you getting locked up. All right,
No.
And you call Tone for bail money. That's what I've heard. I don't know that that's exactly what.
Tone, now, see what Tone would do. Tone would sit and laugh at me for a couple of days and then consider it. I'm not saying he would give me the bail money. He would consider it, but he would have a good chuckle for a couple of days and tell everybody he knows, "Hey, D-Gun's behind bars." Wait. He's got a comment here. Got to let him sweat, Rob. See,
that's right.
I told you.
That's right. You need to sweat a little. We can't make it easy on you, man. Tone knows. He knows. Yeah. He knows how to get the best out. Tone's like the Nick Nurse taking over, coming in for Joel and B. He knows how to get the best out of you. That's for sure. That's funny, man. Yes. So Christy works 5 jobs, so she can move wherever she wants to move. She's earned it.
Let's see. It's always happy hour when sports take time. You're right. No, I hardly know anyone here. Yes, Rob, I work 5 jobs for a reason. I'm a huge saver. I only buy things on super sale.
That's right.
Okay, that's all right. He knows. What's wrong with that?
All right. So where did I go, Father Sean? Sweeney Todd's in Havertown or Romani's in Upper Darby. So I go to Gregory and Marie's in Havertown.
Oh, Gregory.
Gregory is Italian, like from Italy. So he moved here when he was like 17 or 18. But he has been a barber since he was 12. He started cutting hair at the age of 12.
Wow.
Yes. And he's a character, man. So when I first I tell the story before. When I first, so he'd ask me, what do you do? You know, what do you do for a living? I've been going to him for a long time. So at the time, I was just doing radio. Okay. This was like in between TV and our show here.
Sure.
So I said to him, I'm on the radio. I don't, you know me. I'm just like, I don't even want to sit, but I'm like, I'm on the radio. Oh, he would say, you're a DJ. You play music. I'm like, nah, I talk about sports. And he couldn't, like, he's like, that's all you do. You don't talk politics. I'm like, no, I just talk. And he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that there's 24-hour sports talk.
Right. Especially in a town like Philly.
Right. So, but the only sport he knows, and God love him, is football, soccer, right? He loves soccer.
Right.
So you talk soccer. I'm like, yeah, we don't talk a lot of soccer. We talk, and I think he knows who the Eagles. I'm going to talk Eagles and blah, blah, blah. I could tell, like, just the look on his face. He didn't quite get it. Right. And then later when I started to do more TV, somebody told, oh, you're doing TV, you're doing news. I'm like, I'm not doing news. I'm doing sports. And he didn't get that either. Right. So anyway, I think he sort of thought I wasn't really doing what I was doing. He thinks I was kind of making it up. Right. So one day I'm sitting in the chair. He's cutting my hair. My back's to where the people waiting. You got a couple, you know how it is in the barbershop. You got people waiting. So get my hair cut. And he and I are having a conversation just about whatever nonsense. And someone said,
hey, Tone said he thought Rob was a drug kingpin.
Yeah, probably. So this dude who was sitting there waiting, he was probably like 21 or 22 years old. He was waiting to get his haircut. And he recognized my voice, and he jumps up and he's like, he walks over to us as Gregory's cutting my hair. And he's like, you're Rob Ellis, blah, 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 blah. And Greg was like, how he know you? How he know who you are? All this other. And then his mind was like,
he still doesn't get it.
He still doesn't get it. But anyway,
so Tone is right. Then the guy probably thinks you're some kind of drug kingpin.
Probably. He I don't know what he thinks at this point. Like when the dude walked over and knew who I was, his mind was kind of like blown. So who knows?
Hey, Fitness Rebel checked in at 12:08, so you better make sure you
Fitness Rebel. Where we are. Okay. Hi, Fitness Rebel. We missed you.
See, believe it or not, I go to a barber every other week, and my wife was like, what's he cutting, your nubs? You have nothing to cut. I said, well, shapes up the goatee. He does the line and stuff like that. But I can't get her to understand. Going to a barbershop, now I don't know about you, but since I was a kid,
right,
going to a barbershop is one of the most comical places, and it's also therapeutic.
Yes.
It's where the most trash talking environments, and it usually revolves around either sports or politics.
Correct.
And you get people coming in, man, and it is hilarious. It's therapeutic. You sit there and guys are just cracking up, just busting on each other, and you pay for the entertainment.
It's worth it. It's worth the haircut money. And, you little tip your guy. It's worth it just to sit there and laugh at these guys and laugh at everybody sits around, and it's not politically correct. And you're telling jokes and you're telling lies about how good you were when you were younger at sports and all this other stuff. And, guys are complaining about the Sixers and the Phillies and the Eagles. It's what it's all about, man. It's fun. It's a good thing.
Now, see, my barber is from Nigeria, and he's been in the U.S. for, oh, my goodness, 30 years.
Yeah.
Got his degree from NC State, played soccer at NC State, stuff like that. Does very well for himself. Lives in a town called Hockessin, which is, upscale area in Delaware here. So what he's been doing for years that I didn't catch on to until earlier this year, he has like 5 or 6 barbers who work with him, and I know them all, and we just sit and talk, and people come in, they know who I am. We just talk and yell at it. There's no talking in a barbershop. It's all yelling.
Yes.
You yell, and you see.
Think Coming to America.
Yeah.
The
exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
So he always asks me, he's a big Eagles fan, diehard Eagles fan. And so he's always asking me questions about Eagles. So I didn't know until a few months ago that when other clients, I said, I'll tell them stuff. I'll say, look, man, you keep this on you close to your vest, or this is what I see. He'll ask me about the lineman who's going to win this position.
Right.
When I'm not there, he relays the information like he knows it himself.
Like he got it.
Yeah. So we busted. Me and the other barbers busted him on it, right? He couldn't say anything. I said, so basically, you've been using me for like the last 10 years and making it sound like you're smarter than you really are. When it comes. So we go back and forth now. I should be getting a discount, number one, because I come to your barbershop.
Right.
And other people know I come to your barbershop. And number two, you should have given me an even bigger discount because you've been embellishing and plagiarizing my information.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree with you, man. Yeah.
Of course, him being him is, oh, no, I should charge you more because you come in. No, you're not. No. But dude, I'm gonna tell you, barbershop is hilarious. And I would sit there as a kid when my dad would go and take me and my brother, and I would just sit there like this with my mouth open.
Yeah. Yeah, you couldn't believe what was happening in there. And what
sometimes you thought things were going to escalate into a fight, but it was just guys jaw-jacking with each other.
Yep.
Yep.
No, listen, you're dead on, man. I remember, God, when I was a kid. So that you talking about like the early '80s, mid '80s hairstyles for white guys were different. It was longer. You do the feathered back and all, all this other stuff, right? So like, my mom, there was this guy right near my house. So Father Sean would appreciate this because he was a priest in the neighborhood where I grew up. But there was a guy named Francis, a barber named Francis, right on Westchester Pike in Upper Darby. We could walk there. My mom and I would walk over. I'm talking when I'm like a kid, right? So we walk over. Yep. So back then, longer hair was in. You didn't want the short. You weren't getting this back then.
Exactly right.
But this guy, man, he didn't care what you asked for. He was like a butcher. So he would like nip your ear. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm in the barber chair looking at my mom like, what are we doing here? Like with this guy. Yeah. He's brutal. And I'm like, I'm never going to him again. We better figure something else out. Either I'm not getting a cut or we're not going back to him. He's stuck.
You talk to your mom like that?
I didn't talk to her like that.
I was gonna say, you're lucky you're still here.
No, I was like, Mom, can we please go somewhere else? He's terrible.
My barber here, his clippers were always sharp, too sharp. So when they would do the line and stuff, you'd have a cut here, here, and then on top of that, before they let you go, they dab a swab of cotton with alcohol, and they go around, and you be sitting there like your fist balled up, man.
Yep.
Oh my goodness! And you got to wait to scab to heal for a few days later. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was brutal, man.
Yeah, man. Those were the days. All right. So
Havertown, that's an upscale area, Rob.
Well, I that's where I get my hair cut. It's not where I live.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you going upscale neighborhoods there.
No, he's actually
hanging out with the rich and famous.
No, he's actually relatively cheap, so he's good. He's good.
Brother Guido cutting your hair and
yes. Father, Romani's is right next to the Highland Park Firehouse. Yes, I know exactly where that is, Father. All right. Wow. So Gunner.
Yes.
Not all good. The Phillies last night.
Okay, is this Rob's venting segment again?
No, because I can't rant every day. It would be disingenuous. But
no, you would be passionate. It would be the typical Rob Ellis that I've known for over 25 years.
Here's where I'm starting to go with this. I'm being honest with you. So at this point now, they're 25 and 30. So they played 55 games. So we're about a third of the way through this thing.
Yep.
And I told you yesterday, like I can't do the E word early anymore. Like I can't do that. I get a sense, and I watched the post game show last night with our buddy Michael Barkan and Ruben Amaro Jr. And they took Rob Thompson's meeting in the manager's office live, as they always do.
Yep.
And he was asked several times, like, what do you do? And he basically said, like, I don't have any answers at this point. He looks lost, and I'm not blaming this all on him. I'm definitely putting this more on the players than I am him, but he looks lost. And I think this lack of urgency that they've had up until this point, now all of a sudden it's starting to dawn on them, like maybe we're not this good. Maybe last year was a 6-week crazy run, but what we saw for most of the season is who we are more than anything else. I think maybe that's dawning on them a little bit organizationally.
Well, let me start by saying this. You have thoroughly ruined my Phillies nightly experience.
I have.
Yes, you have thoroughly ruined every game that I watch in the evening.
What did I do?
Because of your passion and your ranting periodically about this team, instead of just watching the game, I'm sitting here like in scenarios like when Nola gives up the home run last night, I'm thinking, oh, geez, did Rob do a front gainer off his couch? When the Phillies leave runners in scoring position, go 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, does Rob have an IV hook? I'm thinking everything related to Rob now. So I can't just sit and enjoy the game. There's some points in Phillies games where I sit and chuckle because it's so comical right now in terms of how much money they're paying these players and how below average this team is.
Yeah.
And again, I understand what you're saying about you're not going to use it's early anymore. But I will also continue to say we finally hit June. I will wait until the end of June before I reach the Rob Ellis level of frustration. June was the month they really turned it around last year.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you got Trey Turner. And, we know he's in a slump. He's not the yelling at the TV.
Have you graduated to that yet? No. Okay.
No, I will not yell. I'm going to be honest with you, Kevin. If this team continues to go this path from now until the end of the season, I will not yell. I will sit there and chuckle more than I yell. I'm like, I can't believe this. I would be in amazement more so than frustrated. I will not reach the depths and the darkness of the Rob Ellis Phillies experience on a daily basis. I will not allow myself to
You're more evolved. Let's face it. We all know. You're more evolved.
Nathan Hoffman says, that's strangely sweet, Gunner.
He's thinking of me, Nathan. Thank you. Oh, my God.
It is. Rob's ruined my Phillies baseball experience.
Think about what I do to myself. Look, here's the thing, Derek. First of all, overall, they've lost 3 straight. They've scored 7 runs in the last 4 games. This team was supposed to score runs. You bring in Trey Turner to a lineup that already had Harper and Schwarber. I know they lost Hoskins, and that's legit, but still. There's no way that this team should be doing what they're doing offensively.
No.
And I'm not letting Nola off the hook either. I'll get to him. But, I mean, their offense is just terrible. And, they're a bad road team. They're 11-20 on the road. The Mets have owned them. They've lost 17 of 22 to the Mets.
Yes, they have. They haven't beaten the Mets in a series since 2021.
Right.
Nola hasn't beaten the Mets since 2021. About an hour ago, so I did my own little poll on Twitter, and I said, which Phillies player irritates you the most? And, of course, the answers have come in fast and furious. So I will ask you this. Give me the 2 players that you think from my poll. You haven't even seen my poll. You didn't know about it until I told you right now.
I didn't, honestly. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me which 2 players do you think are at the top of the irritation list for Phillies fans right now?
Did you give multiple choice, or did they just answer?
I just let them pick names randomly.
I wonder if they throw Thompson in there, but if it's just players, I would say Turner and I would say Schwarber.
Ooh, you were close. Right now at the top of the list is Nola and Turner. Rob Thompson did get a few votes. Schwarber did get a few votes.
Okay.
But when people said Turner, they said, we know he's going to turn it around. Most of them said, Turner frustrates me and irritates me, but we know he's going to turn it around. Yeah. Nola irritates me to no end right now. You
know what drives me craziest about him?
What?
Not that the Phillies are doing much offensively, but last night Sosa hits the home run, which you weren't sure it did go out after the replay.
It did, yep.
He gives up a 2-run shot right after that. As soon as the Phillies take the lead back, and I feel like that's been him all year. Like, they'll either battle back and take a lead, and then he gives it right up the next half inning. Or last night, you finally got something, and then boom, there's the Canna hit the 2-run home run. It's like, come on, man, protect the lead. And he was behind counts the whole night.
Yes,
he's never a guy who walks a lot of people, but he wasn't sharp again last night. Like, 3 walks for him is a lot of walks.
Yes.
He's not a guy who gives up a lot of walks.
5 strikeouts is a low total for him.
And he's given up a ton of home runs this year.
His breaking pitches are basically hanging across the plate like Frisbees.
Right.
They're just hovering across the plate. There's no snap in his breaking pitches. He's not hitting the corners. His velocity is not what it was. consistently like it was. Now, granted, he throws 94, 95 with a fastball, but because of his breaking pitches when they're on and when they're snapping off the plate like they're supposed to, it sets up his a little bit above average fastball that much better. His breaking pitches help catch batters off guard. That's not happening now. When you look at his line last night, Rob, he went 6 innings.
Yeah.
He only gave up 4 hits, but he gave up 4 earned runs in back-to-back innings. He gave up 4 runs. So he pitched well enough to win, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
His offense is killing him. Anytime you have the likes of Castellanos, Schwarber, and Real Muto going 0 for 11, and Schwarber's now dipped to 163 hitting, he's got more strikeouts than he has game appearances.
Derek, I mean, here's the thing with Schwarber, and I know everybody wants to tell you he's June Schwarber and all this other stuff. He goes off in June. Okay, well, here we go. It's June 1st, so we'll see. 163.
Yep.
318 on base, 395 slugging percentage.
Yep.
He's got 68 strikeouts, as you mentioned. This is epically bad. Like, this isn't, he's usually around 200, hovering around there. And he does strike out a lot. But even by his standards, this is bad. On top of everything else, Bohm's now on the IL with a hamstring.
Yes.
Man.
Now, Rob, I will go back to this because I know you're taking this personal, and I know it's no matter what I say, I'm not going to be able to talk you off this ledge until this team puts together a definitive streak. But if you go back to last year, all right, he played 155 games, right?
Yes.
Okay, 155 games last year. He hit 218.
I know.
200 strikeouts. But he had 46 home runs and 94 RBI.
Yeah, it's not all that different. I get it. But here's the thing. You said 218?
I lost it here. What the heck? Yeah, 218.
Okay. I mean, that's 50 some odd points higher than what he's hitting now.
But it's only May, Rob. It's only first day. Now, the highest he ever hit batting average wise was in 2021 when he played 41 games for Boston. He had 291.
Yeah,
but he only had 7 home runs. So the time he split between Washington and Boston, he hit 32 homers and he had 71 RBI. He had 253 for Washington, and then for Boston, he had 291. Yep. So that's the best he's ever done. Yeah. So I continue to tell you, if he hits 220, it's a major accomplishment. He's got 68 strikeouts in 55 games already, dude. In 190 plate appearances.
Gunner, they're driving me nuts. Oh my God. All right. So let's do this. Let's turn our sights to football before I lose my mind this early in the show. Here's what we have today. Jeff McClain at 12:30. Jeff's going to join us from the NovaCare Complex. Eagles start OTAs today at 12:55. Jeff's going to join us at 12:30. Yeah. 1 o'clock, Keith Pompey is going to join us. We'll talk to him about the Nick Nurse hiring. Joe Mazzulla, by the way, it will keep his job in Boston. They've announced that. Brad Stevens came out and announced that. Monty Williams gets 6 years, $78.5 million.
That's unbelievable.
It's the biggest contract in the history of the NBA for a coach.
NBA coaches are right now standing up applauding what Detroit just did.
Eric Spoelstra just did a backflip. What
about the Denver coach?
Yeah, I know. Mike Malone's hanging from the scoreboard.
Oh my goodness!
I'm telling you.
What are the Sixers paying Nick Nurse then?
That's one of the things I want to dive into with Keith at 1 o'clock.
You know what?
I'm really
quick,
curious.
I know we got McClain on the other side, but you know what? You might want to listen to what Griffin Renzi is telling you here. He said Rob just needs to go to a D-Gun barbecue to help cool down his tomato head.
Tomato head.
He's talking in terms of how beat red you are.
I know. I believe me. I know how red I get. This is nothing. You ain't seen nothing yet. All right.
Especially so let's tell your kids they can't order what they want to order for food.
Correct. That's exactly right. All right. Let's get a timeout, and we'll come back. And Jeff McClain will be hopping on with us from the NovaCare Complex. Looking forward to hanging out with Jeff. Haven't talked to him in a minute. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Bravo Pizza of Havertown. Yes, Bravo Pizza of Havertown. Been going there since I was a kid. They've been family owned since 1985. You got Alex and his great crew. They're there 7 days a week. They have the most fresh food that you will ever encounter. I mean, none of that sitting under a heat lamp stuff. They offer 20 different styles of pizza daily. They have slices to go. I love the fact that they have you name it, they'll make it. Basically, it's specialized pizza your way, however you want it. They don't just do pizza, by the way. They do fresh pasta, sandwiches, wraps, salads, wings. Bravo's also committed to the community. Fundraisers for little leagues, for charities, for schools, for Eagles Autism, where the proceeds go to those organizations. You can follow them at the Bravo Pizza of Havertown on Instagram and Facebook for daily specials and promotions. 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown. 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center in Havertown is the address. Give them a call, 610-446-3810. 610-446-3810. Bravo Pizza of Havertown.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. He's Derek Gunn. I am Rob Ellis. Without further ado, we're going to get to Jeff McLean. Appreciate Jeff squeezing us in here before OTAs begin at 12:55. You can follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff_McLean. Jeff, by the way, really enjoying, man. I think the latest was Sean Desai, but really enjoying your uncovering the birds, where you get an opportunity to kind of sit down.
Yeah, that is awesome, dude.
Really, really well done, man. Congratulations on that.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. It's we just finished what we're calling season 1, 10 episodes of narrative series podcast on the Eagles, and some of it, most of it, I guess, is stuff that's happened previously and with certain players that went through the organization from around, from when I started covering in 2009 up until now. But the last two have been on more current topics. Jalen Hurts being the face of the franchise now was episode 9, and episode 10 and season finale with Sean Desai. And we've had really good response and obviously a lot of people have listened, so we're hoping to continue it, and we're kind of in the works and planning stages of that right now.
Jeff, awesome. I got to ask you this real quick because, I've known you for a long time and I love your work. I've told you that many, many times. But in all the years that you've been in the media and a journalist, as a writer, a print journalist, doing this format with the podcast, have you found out anything about yourself that you didn't know as an interviewer that you may like or dislike about the style in which you interview?
Well, it's definitely certainly a different medium for me. We've done podcasts before, but the typical ones where you just kind of sit and talk with other beat reporters or about the current state of the team. This was certainly a different muscle for me to have to flex. And, that was, the interviewing thing was essentially the same. I mean, I had some very long interviews with a number of the subjects. Some even went as long or more than 2 hours. So that's a long haul. And typically my interviews don't really stretch that long. It depends upon the subject and the person over the years in terms of what I've been writing for the paper and newspaper. But the biggest challenge for me, I guess, was just kind of getting the voice down for how you talk on podcasts. It's, almost conversational. Even if something is written in front of me, I certainly don't want to say it in a way in which it sounds like I'm reading from a script. You want to just kind of draw the listener in, make them feel like we're having a conversation, and that takes a little time to learn. And I'm still kind of going through that in terms of voice flexion. You guys probably know better than me, having been in that, worked in that field longer than I have, of how long it takes to kind of get that conversational tone down. But the podcasts are different than radio and different than this, obviously. And no, it's been fun to dig into these topics. They're really honestly about 30 to 35 minutes. And I like that length because it's like, usually a commute into work or maybe an exercise, a workout for somebody or walking the dog. And I think in a lot of the cases, we've brought some new information out there, new perspectives and additional context to maybe some of these stories that you thought you knew, but maybe don't know as well as you thought you did.
Jeff, Chris asks, and I would just so everybody who hasn't had the chance to hear it yet, where can she listen to this? She said she can't find it on YouTube, but where can people either download or be able to access it?
We're not up yet on YouTube. I think that's in the works. But in terms of anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, we have the links on our page. This is in partnership with KYW News Radio, so you can go there as well and get it.
Cool.
But anywhere you get your podcasts.
Okay. I want to ask you about Sean Desai. Give us something you learned about him that maybe, we know sort of philosophies and schemes. We know he got his, I think, doctorate or master's at Temple. What did you learn about him that sort of stood out to you?
Yeah, there was a lot I learned in terms of his background and how he came up. We centered the episode a lot around the Indian American experience, or being a first generation Indian American, the immigrant experience. His parents were born in India, emigrated to the United States, and then he was born here in '83 along with his brother. And he lived in a house with a lot of relatives. There's 11 of them under one roof until he was in second grade. Obviously that is kind of, I wouldn't say it's not atypical for families that have immigrated, especially Indian families. They're very close knit, and they, the first comes over, they bring more from the family. And so he grew up around his cousins, and that fostered a competitiveness in him. And he took to every sport. Football he loved. It took him a little while because his parents were a little resistant to that because of its contact and the violence. Eventually played freshman year of high school, breaks his ankle, and his parents are like, all right, that's it, you're done. And he can't play his sophomore year, but his love for it is so intense that they allow him to play as a junior, senior year. And that's kind of where he wasn't an exceptional player, but good enough to play. But that's also where his love of strategy and instruction kind of was first fostered. And even though he kind of pursued this educational path, he went to BU, and then he went to Columbia to in the teacher's college. And initially his parents wanted him to go to the med school. And then he went into Temple, got his doctorate. And you learned about how, obviously there's a glass ceiling for for a lot of people who want to get into coaching. But certainly for people of certain cultures and Indians just don't typically play football or excel at in America. And, for him to kind of go from a non-traditional football background to coaching took a lot of hard work. I mean, just you hear the stories from people who've worked with him. And that to me really stood out about Sean, is that this guy is very diligent.
Are you surprised that the Eagles kept him away from the media as long as they did? Because people kept saying, why haven't we heard from Sean Desai yet? Were you surprised by that, considering the past experiences with this organization?
Well, I mean, in just 2 years ago when Nick Sirianni was hired, we didn't get any of the coordinators until like late May.
Wow.
Now, I think some of it had to do with the fact that the way Nick came in, and they want to kind of ease them in. And I get that to some extent. In a lot of cases, these guys are seasoned. Sean has been a coordinator before, so he's been out in front of cameras and microphones before. So I think a lot of it had to do with they were just busy.
Yeah.
But he had his news conference a few weeks ago. Yeah. And, the fact that they gave me, we spoke for like 40 minutes. The fact that they gave me Sean for 40 minutes was great. Typically that would be something that happens. And so, yeah, not completely surprised, but yeah, obviously as a reporter, you want to get him as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That is very Eagles-ish. I would say that, to say the least. So, Jeff, what do we expect here? OTAs, we know the Eagles have erred on the lighter side, which, it's worked for them, frankly, from a health perspective. I know some of that is good fortune, but still. What do you expect to gather out of this today? Is there much that you can take away from these couple of days here?
I wouldn't say much. There's a few things. I mean, number one being the rookies, the first time you get to see them playing in the NFL or practicing in the NFL. And aside from everything else about them in terms of all the parameters and weight size and 40 time, et cetera, and what you've seen on film in college, it's the first time to see, okay, can these guys move at a pro level speed? Of course, they're not playing at a pro level speed or game speed yet. But sometimes you can kind of glean a few things, especially for like the skill position guys, which the Eagles really didn't get many of in the draft. But the rookies, number one, the new guys, how they fit in. I mean, I'm most interested in looking see how DeAndre Swift and Brad Penny, these are guys that are perennial, that are often injured. But when they're on the field and healthy, they're very productive. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about the process of replacing Miles Sanders. And then, of course, I mean, there really aren't many competitions. Only one starting spot, maybe two starting spots, I guess, are up for grabs, which would be right guard, Cam Jurgens. And there's a chance that Tyler Steen, the rookie, has a chance to compete for that spot. And I guess safety, it's fair to say that maybe one or both those spots are out there for the taking.
I was going to ask you, Jeff, I'm glad you brought up the right guard spot. Everybody seems to think it's automatic. They're going to pencil in. Is that right guard spot? How do you see it playing itself out? I mean, this kid Steen is a big kid, played at Alabama, Road Grader University, 6'6". I mean, how do you see it playing itself out?
Well, both guys are going to have to do some transitional work here, because Cam Jurgens has never really played guard. And even though I think he practiced some of it last year, they started to kind of prepare him for this eventuality. That's going to be an adjustment for him. And the same thing applies to Steen, who played tackle only at Vanderbilt and then Alabama. He's going to have to move into guard, which is different. And typically it may be easier in some respects moving inside. But that's an adjustment for both. And Tyler, I mean, it's coming to the NFL, to making a huge leap. And whereas Cam's kind of done that now. And I know Cam didn't play much last year as a rookie. Before Jason Kelce returned, remember, you guys, he didn't play for 3 weeks. This guy got in the preseason, and he looked like he was ready to step in and perform at this level. So my expectation is that Cam is going to hold on to that job, but we'll see how this plays out. Look, he's ideally suited to the center position, but he has a skill set and certainly can play guard, based upon what we've heard from Jeff Stoutland, Howie Roseman, and Nick Sirianni.
Jeff, any thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, is this typically what happens in late May, June, or is there real, possibility they might take a shot there?
Yeah, from what I understand, not likely at all. you know, obviously if he's out there and all of a sudden he's willing to take whatever, and for 1 year, because I doubt that. I assume he's going to be able to get maybe more than 1 year. Maybe he just wants to kind of get the much as he can for 1 year and then sign something again. But he's getting up there in age. The Eagles have 2 good receivers. And to me, you know, you've paid AJ, but you got to pay Devontae. And Howie spoke about this a lot of times. You just want to be careful about taking care of your own, taking care of others versus taking care of your own. I think to have DeAndre come in, maybe if it's for a certain price, it's possible. But then you got the number of targets that have to go around. You have a lot of hands to feed. And, you know, DeAndre Hopkins takes a little extra work. And it took a lot of extra work for both those organizations that he played for. So I don't know if he's an automatic culture fit. I think you could bring him in and everyone would kind of gather around and he'd follow suit, maybe, perhaps. I don't know. To me, I just think there are too many reasons to not do it. That being said, never say never. But I would say it's very unlikely.
Yeah, I don't see him investing that kind of money into 3 wide receivers. I know you're pressed for time, but I got to ask you this. You have a limited amount of time with these guys, 6 practice sessions, and no mandatory OTAs for the month of June. So what do you do in the month of June? I mean, how creative do you have to be to get through the month of June?
Well, I mean, these guys are professionals. They, you know, they handle their own business.
No, I meant you in terms of writing.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
I have one thing lined up, and then I take off on the 12th, and then I pretty much, like, you know, I get an extended period.
Oh, nice.
In summer, the NFL shuts down. I mean, typically, we would just normally have 1 extra week, so we have 1 less week of work, and I have some stuff to do before and plus we're going to try and figure out the podcast stuff. I got some stuff to prepare for training camp, and then I'm gone. And then training camp starts, you know, before you even know it. And, the older I get, the quicker the break always seems to go.
So Rob, translation: don't try to call Jeff in June or July.
I know what he was doing. It was a subliminal way of leaving it.
I'll call you.
I know how Jeff.
I've been jumping every now and then. Hey, Gunnar, real quick. I don't know how much you got to listen to the podcast, but there's a great part in one of them where we have you on audio asking a question, and it's just. It's classic Gunnar. Classic Gunnar.
Do I get paid for this?
Look at you,
Gunnar. The question was to Riley Cooper.
Wow. I know it's your question.
It's on the Carrie Williams episode. Yeah, if you want to listen to that.
Let me guess. The question was, how do you let that word come out of your mouth when 70% of your teammates is African American? Was that the one?
That's the one.
There you go. People still ask me about that. D-Gun, I can't believe you asked that. That's why it's a valid question.
It is.
You're in the locker room. 70% of the workforce is African American. You played a sport with most of your teammates are African American. How do you let that word come out of your mouth?
Yeah.
Yes, it was perfectly handled, obviously, by you. Always a pro, and some insight into what happened on behind the scenes in that episode. If you guys are interested, or anybody's listening is interested.
Nice.
Yes, I got to listen to that one. I missed that one.
The Carrie Williams episode, Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Okay. Oh yeah. He was right in the middle of it.
We'll check it out. All right, Jeff. Appreciate it, man. We know,
guys,
you got to roll.
Have a great day, dude.
All right, man. You got it. Thanks. That's Jeff McClain, Philadelphia. Gunnar, I remember. Just speaking of that. So I was down there in a capacity as a reporter, a sports reporter for CBS 3 at the time. Okay. I had left Comcast Sportsnet. Right. So you're down there. Everybody was down there. It was weird. It was like a Monday. I can't remember. It was like a Monday or a Tuesday night. And I think it was a Monday night because this broke over the weekend, I believe, with the video. And
he was at a concert. Yep.
Yeah.
Country music concert. Yep.
So we're all outside of the NovaCare complex. Yep. Sort of like there's a main entrance and then there's like a player, and we're all set up right in the middle.
Yep.
And we're all just sort of standing around for somebody to come out and meet with us and all this other stuff. And it was such a weird atmosphere. Like it was. I will just tell you this. He was very fortunate. Riley Cooper, not Bradley Cooper. Riley Cooper was very fortunate the way Michael Vick handled things. He really showed forgiveness for him. He could have really, it could have been hideous for Riley Cooper. He is very and it wasn't just Michael Vick. It was other teammates who handled themselves, quite frankly, a lot better than I would have considering the circumstances, but he got a lot of grace from teammates. I will tell you that.
I will tell you this also. Michael Vick was very uncomfortable being put in that position. He was asked by the organization to stabilize things. And Michael Vick's like, what do you want me to do with this, right? But because of what Michael Vick had gone through And because Michael Vick was still a lightning rod, you know, when he got to the Eagles, people were still in the locker room. Players were still in awe of Michael Vick. You know, I always tease Michael, and I said, man, you were like, I should refer to him as video game Michael Vick, man, because the stuff he did on the football field was simply, it was sick. The way he could just take off and run, as strong as he was, he could throw a football 80 yards flat-footed. You know, standing flat-footed, he could throw a football. That's how strong that left arm was. Yeah. So Michael Vick was put in a very unenviable situation. There were a lot of teammates that did not want Riley Cooper back in that locker room.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes this stuff all kind of goes together, but didn't Chip that offseason give him an extension too?
The following season. It was the following
right.
season.
I'm saying after that year, after all that
I think it was a 5-year, $25 million extension.
What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
all that.
I understand the reality of sports are we're going to look past a lot of stuff, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form diminishing, you know, what he said or racism, but we'll overlook boorish behavior and give out big contracts to people because they're so talented, right? Cooper was not worth the aggravation of that. That pissed off a lot of players that they did that. And that was another Chip being tone deaf kind of moment.
Yes. It's bad enough he got rid of LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson, and then he gives Riley Cooper a contract extension.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I will say about Riley Cooper, and I am not in any way, shape, or form defending him, but where Riley Cooper grew up, he hung out with mostly black athletes. And of course, you know, that word has been such a lightning rod because it's been so prominent in a lot of rap lyrics and stuff like that. And when Riley Cooper was in the locker room, he hung out with the guys that, you know, when the word was spoken, Riley Cooper was just one of the boys.
Yeah.
But Riley Cooper had one too many drinks on the wrong day and just said the word the wrong time in front of a camera. The fact that somebody had a camera on him going off, that just lit it up more so. And people say, Degon, I'm so glad you asked that question, but man, I would have been afraid to ask it the way you asked the question. Well, I wasn't afraid. You know me, I'm never afraid to ask any question, first of all. But I had a great relationship with Riley.
Yeah.
And even after I asked that question, because when I asked that question, if you remember, everybody was silent when I said, how do you let that word come out of your mouth when over 70% of your coworkers and workforce are African-American?
Yep. Yeah, there was a pause after you said it. Everybody was kind of like...
It went definitely silent, and all of a sudden, the mics moved in closer to Riley.
We were all in there. Yep.
They got his comment. And afterwards, Riley and I had a great conversation. I said, dude, I hate to have to ask you a question. He goes, no, D-Gun. He said, you did your job. He said, this is on me, not you.
Yeah.
And I said, and I've always said, first of all, kudos to the Eagles, because they could have shielded him from the media. For days. They brought him out as soon as they could, right after that incident happened, and made him available to the media. And I said, why'd you guys do that? And I won't say any names, but several, you know, ranking officials in the organization said he needed to face the music on this topic. He needed to face the music.
Agreed.
And so I give them a lot of props for doing this, because a lot of organizations might have waited a week before they made Riley available, sat down, gone over, okay, if somebody asks you this, make sure you say this, or don't say this, whatever you do to continue to add fuel to the fire. They let him out. And, you know, Riley was humbled. And he knew he was going to have to navigate a lot of turbulent waters in that locker room. Dudes that were his boys looked at him a lot differently. Some dudes didn't care. You know, it's like, hey, it's Riley Cooper. But other guys, you saw what happened with the Kerry Williams a few days after that. You know, and Michael had to step in on that. So Michael Vick did not want to be put in that position of having to be the liaison between the African-American players and Riley Cooper. But because of his stature, he knew that it was going to be thrust upon him, and he handled the role well. Riley Cooper knew he was going to have to spend the entire season looking over his shoulder and people looking at him sideways, because some never forgave him for what he said, even though they played with him. Some never forgave him. And then on top of that, he gets the contract extension while other players are getting cut. And that made a lot of players look at Chip Kelly like, yo, man, what are you doing here? You know, now Riley Cooper never fulfilled the full 5 years of that contract, but still, $25 million contract
and he was okay. I mean,
he was okay. Yeah,
it's fine. He was a fine possession receiver, but he wasn't special by any chance. But I just remember that night, man, and it was crazy. We were all just waiting, and then boom, it all went down. But it was pretty wild. What are your? I'll ask you what I asked Jeff McClain, Derek. your expectations here from these OTAs. I mean, I agree with what Jeff said. I just want to see, frankly, I just want to see like Nolan Smith out there. I want to see Jalen Carter out there. I want to just see some of these guys, you know, Sidney Brown, et cetera. I just want to see how they're working them in, in terms of reps. I don't know how any of that's going to work. There's not much. There's not much to glean from it, but
basically these are glorified walkthroughs. That's all they are. Guys are out there just running, getting loose, going over different plays and scenarios. There's not a lot of extraneous stuff going on in these. You really can't do a whole lot in 6 days. And like Jeff said, basically it's just the players getting acclimated to their new teammates, whether you're a rookie or a new veteran being brought in, going over terminology, getting a better understanding of positioning and where you're supposed to be. And then that's it. And then you're off until training camp. You know, guys will practice on their own, work out on their own. Some will be at the NovaCare complex doing individual things in their own weight room, things like that. Many others will have their own personal trainers as well. So it's basically an introduction to each other,
right?
And installing the simple things before you get into the heavy bulk of what you're going to do in training camp.
Yeah, look, it is what it is. You know, we're looking for any little morsel because we're just dying for football to start, you know, again. So that's really what it amounts to, is just us sitting here saying, all right, come on, give me something, because we don't get to see it anymore. You know, that's the thing.
Right.
All right. So Niners fan
Coach,
here.
I was
Philly
just looking
handled that
at
situation perfectly. They let the locker room speak and
Yep.
didn't hide him. It absolved them of the moral conundrum, and they didn't hold his water. Well said.
Well said. Yes,
Well said,
that's
Coach.
exactly what happened.
Yep.
Because this was a situation that just didn't just subside within a matter of days. This took weeks to calm both sides down. Those who were pro Riley Cooper and those who were negative Riley Cooper. But the bottom line is they went out and did their business, you know, on the field. It didn't affect in practices. Everybody knew their jobs and their roles, but it caused an unwarranted tension in that locker room. Just like with T.O. When T.O. went off, there was a lot of tension in that locker room. And a lot of people talking to me under the cover, so to speak, things I couldn't repeat or use. But this was similar to that. This was more volatile, obviously, because the nature of the situation than the T.O. situation. But the organization handled this as well as they could. And I'll always give them kudos for that, because, you know, I've covered this game a long time, Rob, and not just football, but in other sports. And the first thing organizations want to do is, okay, let's shield the individual from the media for as long as we can, until it subsides a little bit, until we've had thorough discussions with the individual in terms of what to say and what not to say. Nope. They made Riley Cooper face the music as soon as they could to get this out there in the open.
Yeah, no question. And look, you know, I didn't want to sit there and revisit this and you know, the whole thing, but I just wanted to kind of just point out, A, you did a great job, and B, it was one of the crazier nights. You know, it was a weird night, to say the least. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick up the football stuff in a little bit here, Derek. But when we come back, Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquirer is going to join us. They're going to be introducing Nick Nurse a little bit later today. The Sixers put a statement out too on the hiring, so we'll read that when we come back.
Yep.
But get Keith's thoughts on Nurse. And he's been pretty steadfast on the James Harden stuff. He thinks Harden's heading back to Houston. So we'll talk to him about that.
Interesting.
As well. Yeah, I mean, he's been saying all along he didn't think it was Houston just using them as leverage to get a higher number out of the Sixers. So we'll talk to Keith about that as well. So we got a lot in store for you. Don't go anywhere. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I want to tell you right now about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because finding that right person can be a challenge, can be very difficult. And I found the right person, and I'd like you to find that right person as well. That person who can invest your hard-earned money and take care of you in the future, because we know how critical that is, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. If you have a small business and you're looking for help with your employee benefits, trying to get them off the ground, that's another resource that Jim can help you with. I personally have entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. So will you. Give him a call now, 610-996-4751. 610-996-4751. You can also email them as well. Murray, MURRAY .jim@principal.com. That's murray.jim@principal.com.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
We're back. It's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We're Sports Day, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Appreciate you hanging with us. We just wrapped things up with Jeff McLean. We go to one of Jeff's colleagues at the Philadelphia Inquirer, who does an amazing job covering the Eagle for the Sixers for the Inky. And you can follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. That is Keith Pompey. Keith, welcome to the show, my man. How you doing?
What's good, fellas?
All right.
Keith, we're good. It's official now.
Yeah.
Nick Nurse, the worst kept secret, I guess, but they have made it official that Nick Nurse is in the house. I guess the first question I have, Keith, maybe a weird one, but man, we saw the contract that Monty Williams got.
Ooh.
How much are they paying Nick Nurse?
I mean, I don't know. I wish. I mean, I'm assuming it might be. I'm assuming because Nick was making what eight in Toronto. I heard around there, so I'm assuming it's about the same. You would think. You know,
Ooh, man,
pays the coach these days.
What did Monty do to get that kind of cash from Detroit? Or are they just that desperate?
Well, Monty was smart. Monty was the one who said when he realized they wanted him, he's like, "Hey, I'm taking a year off. I'm taking a year off." And then they kept coming back. But yeah, Monty. When you look at it, you know, Monty. What was it when his first year with the New Orleans Pelicans? They won, I believe, 9 more games than they did the year before that. And it was something like 15 more games in Phoenix. So when you bring all this stuff up, you're saying to yourself, like, this guy is a good coach to turn struggling teams into winners. And let's face it, he was real successful in New Orleans to a point where they were upset that he couldn't get out of the first round. So they fired him. And then, the same thing with Phoenix. So, I guess that's the right guy to get if you're tired of tanking and you want to turn it into a playoff caliber team.
Hey, but I will add this though. Then if I'm coaches like Eric Spoelstra and Denver's head coach, I'm thinking, wait a minute, what am I worth then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hey, Detroit just opened up a whole new can of worms in terms of what NBA coaches now. That's like, it's like what Arizona did in football, giving Kyler Murray that kind of money. Quarterbacks in the NFL and say, hold up a minute. Kyler Murray ain't even close enough to carry my jock. What am I worth now? You know what I mean?
You're saying, hey, he don't even know the plays?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my God. So Keith, tell us, what's Nurse bring to the table? Obviously he won a championship. He was coach of the year, even the next year, but tell us what he brings in terms of coaching acumen and what kind of style we're looking at here, offensively, defensively, et cetera.
That's a great question. In regards to what he brings, I think that, well, first of all, he brought the same thing that Doc Rivers did in regards to a championship resume, right? So we got to get rid of that, right? But that's the one thing that he brings that's going to get you to the next level. Secondly, is he thinks out of the box. He's really good at making adjustments. And, when we talk about Doc Rivers, not a knock against him, but the one thing that people said he didn't do was make adjustments in games, especially big games. And that's Nick Nurse's MO. Also, when you look at it, we look at he had Kawhi Leonard for 1 year. They won the championship. But outside of that, he really had a bunch of role players, and he elevated those guys to become all-stars. You talk about Pascal Siakam. You talk about Fred VanVleet, right? Mm-hmm. So these are two guys who thrived over under Nick Nurse. So those are the things. Now, he's a defensive-minded coach. What he likes to do is he likes to swarm. He likes to get under people's skin. But offensively, before he became the head coach, he was known as the offensive coordinator, so to speak. He loves to shoot threes. When he was in the G League and when early on in his career in Toronto, like especially in the G League, his team, the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, shot like 54 threes a game.
Jeez.
54, right? Jeez. So he's one of these guys who, if you give him the right roster, he's going to spread the floor, get a lot of shooters out there, and that should open up things for Joel Embiid.
I'm glad you said the right roster, because it just leads me into my next point. When you look at the current, you know where I'm going. You look at the current state of this team, and we still don't know who's going to be here and who's not. But I think we have a pretty good understanding of the majority of the players that will still be here. When you look at the players that will still be here, does Nick Nurse have the type of players he needs to get better defensively? Because let's face it, perimeter defense killed this team, number one. And number two, be more astute in the three-point shooting game.
That's too great. Nah, I don't think so. And especially not the defensive thing. The defensive thing, like you said, the perimeter defense killed you. In regards to being more astute in the threes, it's like, a guy that you hope that will be more consistent coming off the bench, is going to be Daniel House, right? Daniel House is a guy that you need to. Then you think about it saying, whoa, like if I really want to spread the floor, what are we going to do to bring Georges Niang back, right? Yep. You like what Tyrese Maxey does, what he brings. So, Tobias Harris, if we're going to keep him, maybe. But on the defensive end, I think they're going to continue to struggle, because when we talk about perimeter D, like I don't see anybody out there that's locking them down. I think Anthony Melton did a pretty good job, but he struggled against bigger guards. He's only like 6'2", right? So I think when we say that, when you look at this roster, I mean, they don't have a lot of room to upgrade the roster. But at the same time, it's like you look at it and there's a lot of weaknesses, especially on the defensive end.
Keith, I don't think a lot of Sixers fans are going to like to hear this, and I get it. But is there a possibility that Maxey is included in some kind of he's way more than a sweetener. I don't mean it that way, but include it in a deal to maybe offload Harris and try to retool this thing sort of on the fly? Do you think that's a possibility?
I mean, it could be. I mean, you know, I wouldn't do it, but it could be. I mean, you know, it's funny that you said that because, you know, there's a lot of on social media, like you look into stuff, and there's a lot of people in Philly who want Tobias Harris gone, right? They wanted him going in his contract, and then there are people saying, well, if we get Fred VanVleet, then we're going to be great. But in order for that to happen, Fred would have to do a sign and trade, and then you're saying, but is Toronto really want to take on Tobias Harris's contract? Like, because it's going to have to be a multiplayer thing.
Yeah.
Are they really going to want to take on Tobias Harris' contract, especially knowing that he's in the final year of his deal? So if I'm a team, I'm saying you don't have any first-round picks, but you do have Tyrese Maxey. And that could be something enticing for a team. You look at him and you see what you can do moving forward. And he could be, you know, in the right situation, I think Maxey is going to be a great player. But, yeah, if I'm a team, I'm asking for it. But if I'm Daryl Morey, I don't know if I'm willing to give that up.
Right.
We keep hearing this rumors running amok now that VanVleet could be headed to the 76ers, which the perception is would be a good offshoot of letting James Harden go. Do you see it that way?
I think it would. I mean, here's the thing. Like, James is already halfway out the door, right? I think when you talk now, you could probably say there's probably going to be some better guards out there.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you look at someone for a coach, like a lot of times it's kind of like maybe not the best player out there, but the best fit for the coach. And then someone that you can possibly get. And if they can get him and you know he's probably going to make less than the $50 million that Harden wants. So that's one of those things where I think that could be a good option. But the problem is, you know, when you look at Fred, and let's say, you know, you have to give Tyrese Maxey up with Tobias. So then you have Fred, a guy who has injuries, problems, and you have Embiid, a guy who's had injury problems. What else do you have on his roster?
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's the problem right then and there. Like, you know, what else do you have?
Well, the other thing, not to belabor the VanVleet thing, but like, can you really have VanVleet and Maxey in a backcourt? You're tiny, number one. I don't know. That doesn't seem like a fit to me from a defensive standpoint for a guy who likes, you know, Nurse as a defensive coach. I don't know if that makes a ton of sense, Keith. Does Harden? I mean, Harden is not afraid to launch a three. We know that. But does he fit the other aspects of what Nurse brings to the table defensively and some of the things he likes to do schematically offensively if he's here?
I mean, I think offensively he does. Like, we know he likes shooting a three, right?
Yeah.
But also I think that the thing with James that scares me now, who knows? Like, you know, everybody thinks James is going to leave, right? But the thing that scares me is James is saying he wants a more wide open offense. He wants like to be able to do things. So either, you know, they're going to do either like the new coach is going to be willing to do that if James comes, because if not, it's not going to work out. Like, you know, I mean, and then it's not really going to work out with Embiid. So I think that when you have James saying that, unless he comes back and says, oh, I didn't mean what I said, this and that, it's not going to work long term with him and Embiid. Because, you know, right now, this past season, you know, he basically became Robin to Embiid's Batman and you know, got the assist title. And if he's saying that he wants a more wide open offense and he wants to have more freedom to do what he does, that's telling me that that's not going to work out between him and Embiid, regardless of what the coach does. You understand?
Yeah.
So I'm a little concerned about that. Now, offensively, if everything's going right, yes. Defensively, no. I mean, because the thing is, VanVleet. I always mispronounce the guy.
I want to say Fleet. I want to say Fleet every time.
Yeah, I mean, and the people in Toronto get upset if you.
Oh, they lose it. Yeah.
But so I'll just say Fred. The thing about Fred is he's a better defender than Maxey and Harden. Yeah. But the one thing that you did say, they are two smaller guards, right? Now it worked a little bit with Kyle Lowry. It did work, but they are smaller guards.
Well, go ahead, Johnny.
I'm sorry. You put it out there first that you believe that Harden is headed back to Houston, and I love your insight and your perspectives. And I am not here to disagree with you in any way, shape, or form. But there is a part of me that believes that Harden is trying to use this as leverage to call the Sixers bluff also. Do you think that's a possibility as well? Or do you honestly think he is so determined to go back to Houston that no matter what the Sixers try to do, because there's belief that Morey wants to keep him here in Philly, that Harden's determined to get back to Houston?
Yeah, you know what? Like, I mean, hey, look, believe me, with you saying that, it doesn't hurt me because, be honest with you, I felt the same. Like, when I was where I was at, I was like, are y'all sure? Are y'all sure this isn't a ploy? No, I'm like, are you sure? So yeah, I'm with you, and it could be. I mean, it could be because when you look at James Harden, you say to yourself, are you willing to give this guy that money? Now, yes, he scored 45 and 42 points in the playoffs, right? But outside of that, he really struggled. So when you do is sometimes you create a market. Now, from what I'm hearing is that the Houston Rockets expect to get him, but they expect to win. Like that roster they have right now, if they can make some changes, they're going to try to make it. So that might play into what James is doing. Maybe he knows some things that he's not saying. But yeah, I do feel like James was trying to get some money out of the Sixers, but the Sixers are basically saying that, look, we're not trying to work with you that way. Like, we're not going to mess up our short term or our long term. So basically, it seems like they're not willing to give him that money. Now, who knows, y'all? Both sides say what they want, and then July 6th could be a different story. But I'm just telling you, they both seem to be that they're not giving up what they want.
Keith, I am curious about the relationship with Harden and Embiid. Like, it seemed like when Embiid won the MVP, they were all mobbing him in that conference room and the watch presentation. I mean, it seemed like all was cool there. But you point out something interesting. When Harden throws the thing like he's looking for the offensive freedom, it tells me he's not thrilled with being Robin. Like, he still thinks he's Batman. So just from that standpoint, is there maybe not a fit there anymore with those two from that standpoint?
Yeah, I think probably not a fit. I mean, they when they come in, guys always try to work it out, right? And they all say, "This ain't what I said. You didn't hear me say it. I don't know who told you that." One of those things. But I think what we saw is, you see a guy like James, and James is one of those athletes who's always been the man. It's like having a receiver who's for most of his career, he's a number one. And then you tell them, all right, you got to be a number two, or we want you in the slot. And sometimes they still think they're number one. And there's nothing against the other guy. It's just that sometimes they have a breakout game and show you signs of what they used to be, and they think that they're still that guy. And I think that's what James Harden is. He feels as if that he's still that guy. He's not ready to relinquish that role. He felt like, you know what? I'm doing what I can do to help the Sixers win a championship. I gave up $15 million. I did everything, and we still went out in the second round. So why should I continue to sacrifice and give up who I am when the teams has always been at their best with me scoring a bunch of points?
Keith, I'm not giving James Harden a max contract at 33 years of age. I'm sorry. I'm just not doing it. I don't care how much it hurts my team because I know I'm cap restraint. We're draft pick restraint. I'm taking that. I'm biting that bullet. James Harden is not getting a 4-year max contract from me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. And here's my thing. Like, to be honest with you, I was on the phone with somebody today, and I was like, all things equal, if you take out, like, looking at their current rosters, if I'm James Harden, I'd rather take the Houston Rockets deal anyway, because I believe they can give them they could give them 201.7 million.
Woo.
Where the Sixers can give them what? 210. So when I know that's, again, believe me, millionaires, right? That's $9 million. I would love to have $5 million. I would love to have $800,000.
Yeah, for real.
When you factor in the city wage tax, the cost of living, a no state tax in Texas, if I'm James, I'm going back to Houston. Yeah. If it wasn't for the championships and all that other stuff. That's just me.
What do you think it is for him, Keith? I know he's got the home in Houston. His mother makes her home there now. I know he grew up in California, but he's transitioned over to Houston. he's got places that he likes to hang out there. And he's a legend in that town. And the money. What do you think ultimately it's about for him at this point? Is his
you know what? I think like Houston is kind of like a place where he became James Harden that we know of, right? It's also a place where he has a lot of businesses and a lot of things like that. You know, I think that has a lot to do, and his mom's there and a lot of his family. Like when he went to Houston, apparently what I heard is people in his family moved to Houston. Now, so he has like his whole inner circle and everything there, a lot of businesses, stuff like that. And like you said, his lifestyle. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where he just loves that city. Now, but it's also where there was times like people forget if James had a couple days off or like he didn't go with the team to OKC to like play in the game. He had the night off. Well, James went to Houston.
Right.
He spent New Year's in Houston. So he has a lot of ties there. And I guess, you know, some people like, hey, I'm the legend here. This is where I'm gonna retire. You know, I'm 33 years old. I'm going to get my last contract. I like the quality of life here. And I think that's what it is for him.
Do you think there's any way, shape, or form that James Harden has more clout with the Sixers front office than Joel Embiid? I know his history with Morey. I get that. But do you think he has more clout than Embiid does here?
I think he probably has more clout with the front office, but I think Embiid has more clout with the ownership. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? If that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I mean, think about it. You know, James Harden, you know, he's been with Daryl Morey for a while. Like, think James Harden was basically that acquiring James Harden from the Oklahoma City Thunder basically propelled Daryl Morey's career. And it also did the same thing for James, right? So these two guys are close. And then, you know, he comes here and he gets James. Yeah, I mean, I think James has a lot of clout when it comes to Daryl Morey. A lot. But again, Daryl Morey can make suggestions, but he's not the one cutting the check.
Keith, what with the lack of draft picks, not really a ton of money to play with, even if Harden walks, how do you change this thing? I mean, I know it's not going to be major overhauls. Embiid's going to be back, et cetera. But what do you do to try and get this thing over the hump here?
I think that, you know, you got to hope and pray that you can make a trade for someone. Yeah. And then it has to be like we talked about Fred, because I keep butchering his last name. It has to be. Wait.
What's his last name again?
Fred VV.
VV. FVV.
Yeah, FVV. That's what I'm calling. So like, I think it has to be one of those things where, you know, you look at a team where they feel like they look at Tobias Harris and they think they can take on his salary and maybe you can do a sign and trade or with another player. But I think that, you know, Tobias is one of the few assets that they have, or, you know, you got Maxey too and Joel, but you're not willing to give up Joel. At least they're saying that. And then, you know, so you got to think long and hard about that. But so to me, outside of that, they really don't have a lot of options. Like the problem is, like, you know, we're talking about we're not going to give James $50 million, right? You're not going to do that. So the question is, and it's crazy because there's a catch-22. Like, you can't win with James Harden, a 33-year-old guy who wants to make $50 million a year. Like, that's a hard sell. But also, if you get rid of James Harden, you really don't have another ball handler on the team. You just don't. Another field facilitator, a leader like that, a guy who knows where everybody has to be. They don't have that. So the Sixers are in a tough spot. And in order for them to get out of it, if he doesn't come back, they're going to have to try to make a trade. And like, I think Tobias Harris will have to be the guy that goes.
Okay, so Embiid is 30 now. New coach, new direction. If they continue on the same course, and I'm trying to be optimistic here, but I'm also thinking when you look at the current state of this team could take a step back this coming season, more so than a step forward, because they're so restrained in terms of being able to move pieces around, no draft picks to get better, younger and get better, so on and so forth. So with that said, with Embiid at 30 years old now, how much farther do you go with Embiid before you start talking about we got to move him to try to get something for him?
Yeah, I think the window is starting to close. If it hasn't already. I mean, I think you got it like this year, you got to think long and hard, especially if they don't get out of the second round, what you're going to do moving forward. Because, right now he's the MVP. I know he has an injury history, but his stock is high. Now, I don't know if I would trade him right now, but if you do another second rounder, I think it's time to reboot, and I also think that Embiid might not be the only one. I mean, I think that, Daryl Morey could be in trouble, because before you could blame Doc Rivers. Well, now you're the guy, so I think that a lot of things could happen. Now, do they want to get rid of Embiid? I don't know. But at the same time, I think that if they go out in the second round again, Joel Embiid's going to look around and probably say, hey, this is my legacy. Like, maybe I want to go elsewhere and get a title. And they may think like, maybe we may want to send him elsewhere and get some assets for him.
The only reason I ask you that is because you look at what Utah did. I mean, they went as far as they could go with that nucleus, Donovan Mitchell, all these guys, Gobert. Then they had a fire sale and started over. And that's what I'm thinking. We could be very soon looking at this for a 76ers team.
Exactly. And not to cut you off, but when you look at now, there are certain teams, like you look at the New York Knicks, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, the New York Knicks acquired a plethora of draft picks, hoping and praying that a team it will say, hey, you want our superstar? I mean, you want our superstar, and we'll give you all these picks. Now, I don't know if the Sixers will want to just give them to the Knicks, because that could come back to haunt them, right? A lot, that team that close. But there are teams that, and we talk about the picks that they got for Rudy Gobert. You talk about Dejounte, who was it? The San Antonio Spurs.
Dejounte Murray.
Dejounte Murray. And we're talking about Joel Embiid. Like, yo, I mean, come on. The Sixers will get a bunch of stuff for him.
Yeah.
Last one from me, Keith, regarding Embiid and Nurse. Nurse is a guy who's not afraid to call guys out sometimes publicly. A, how do you think that'll rub Joel? And B, I sort of look at it like, I think these guys need a little calling out sometimes and a little less, catering to. But if he doesn't respond well to that, that could also spell maybe the end after this year with Joe.
It could. Yeah, it actually could. But you know what? The more that you think about it, I think I'm right. I'm with you. You're right. I think that Joel does need some of that. Like as much as, the players run the NBA, but I do think that finally you need somebody to stop pacifying you, like, doing this and that. Sometimes you might have to get some of that stuff that you don't want to hear. You know what I mean? You might have to get that. And then the second thing is, it's like, we got to be honest with ourselves. Like, they went out here and they brought Doc Rivers in and they said, hey, you come in here and you fix it. We remember Doc was saying, hey, look, I got to make changes. He was making excuses for Ben Simmons, and that turned out to bite him in the tail. And I think if you get another coach in here and he's going to the ownership group and saying, look, man, there's a reason why you guys can't get out the second round. You know what I mean? And I think that it comes a point where they're kind of sort of like, okay, well, let's listen. Because, I'm pretty sure Doc looked at it and he changed the culture a little bit. But, Doc went out just like Brett Brown did. I mean, so now you got Nick Nurse saying things. I think that they're going to listen and they're going to realize it's not a you problem, it's a me problem.
Right. Yep. Well said. Well said. Well
Perfect.
said, Keith. Go ahead. You got one more, Gunner? Or
That's it, man. I'm good.
Keith,
man.
I know you got to get running. I know they got a 3:00 press conference for the introduction of Nick Nurse, but we always appreciate your time, man. Thank you for jumping on with us.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Thanks, Keith. All right,
Appreciate
Keith Pompey does a great job, man. Really great job with his insights for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Again, follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. Gunner, let me think about that. I mean, to me, if Nurse is critical publicly of either Joel or the team, and that rubs him or anybody else the wrong way, then maybe that guy's just not for you at this point. And I don't mean Nick Nurse. I mean, maybe it's time to think in terms of bringing somebody else in. Like you might be getting to that point with Joel with one more year of this.
I think when it comes to the role players, it won't affect them because they're just happy to be on a team making what they make, a 7-figure income.
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, I think the only player that this caters to is Joel. It starts with Joel and ends with Joel. He's the catalyst that makes this thing tick right now. And as we've seen in recent years, it has only worked up to a certain point. And if it affects Joel to the point where he can't function the way he needs to function, then it's time to move on from him. And it's time to rebuild this thing. And I think the Sixers fan base is getting to a point where if we tear it down and rebuild it, maybe it's not so bad. I think if they did that, there would be more relief than frustration in terms of, okay, just like Utah did. We went as far as we could with this. Let's see how many draft picks we can get, and let's start this thing over. Nick Nurse will get a clean slate to get in his type of players, have input to get his type of players in here defensively, offensively, whether it's through the draft or free agency, and let's rebuild this. Now, we may have to bite the bullet for a year and be one of the lower tier teams. It may not even make the playoff for 1 year. But if it looks good on paper, better than it did during the Joel Embiid tenure, then I think fans will have a lot more patience with that. But it's such a tricky road to hoe because you don't have a lot of players that are worth first-round trade value other than Maxey and Embiid.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah,
so
they're in a pretty tough spot.
They're in a tough spot, dude. This is a tough spot. And I keep bringing up Utah because this is exactly what happened in Utah. Maybe they kept that nucleus of players together 1 year too long. And then they finally came to the realization when we look at the teams in our conference, the Golden States, the Phoenixes, the Clippers, the Lakers, we're never going to get past all of the landmines we need to get to the promised land, which Denver just did, which is the NBA Finals. So you tear it down and you try to start all over again. And that's, I think, where the Sixers are right now. You try to do it with Embiid. You try to do it with Ben Simmons. You brought Harden in here. You drafted a great kid in Maxey. It's not working.
Mm-hmm.
We got to go in a different route now.
Yeah, and there's one common denominator. So and again, he'll meet with the media at 3:00. But in the Sixers press release, there are some quotes here from Nurse. He said, quote, "I'm honored to be named head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, a storied franchise in a tradition-rich city. Thank you to Josh Harris, David Blitzer, and the ownership group for this incredible opportunity. It's been a fun challenge coaching against this group over the last 5 years. Now I look forward to coaching the 76ers and doing my part to deliver for this tremendous fan base." I'm trying to think see if there's anything else here. All right, so from the Sixers, this is their release from Daryl Morey. "We are absolutely thrilled to welcome Nick Nurse as the new head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. His championship pedigree and diversity of experience mixed with his uniquely creative approach made him our top priority. We are confident that his leadership and expertise will help us unlock the full potential of our talented roster and bring an exciting new era of championship basketball to Philadelphia." All right. So there's, on both ends. Yeah. We got it right there on his hiring. All right. So, I mean, look, he's saying all the right things. They're saying all the right things. Here's what I will say. I feel like when they landed Doc Rivers, he was definitely the top target out there at the time. And I feel like Nick Nurse was probably the number one guy of all the candidates out there this time around too. I mean, so they have, at least for whatever reason, been able to land the big fish to their credit. It hasn't worked out with Doc. We'll see what happens with Nurse, but at least they're getting that guy. So it should be interesting.
I think it's the perfect scenario for Nick, and it's a bad situation for the 76ers. And here's why. I think Nick looked at this and said, okay, I've got Embiid, but I'm also strapped in terms of I have to work with what I'm given. I don't have much input. So if we have to take a step back, we will. From a 76er standpoint that's trying to get over the hump of getting past the second round, the fans are not going to be as patient as they've been up to this point. Mm-hmm. As they navigate through this season, they're going to be more critical, maybe even more seats empty if this team goes south and goes through a lengthy losing streak more so than a winning streak. I don't see that happening, but it could, as we know the NBA. And then they've got to come out of this smelling like a rose next year if it goes bad. Nick buys himself a little extra time to get this team the way he wants it. And the 76ers have to endure the persecution of the media and the fan base for what they put them through and money they've made them spend watching the product on the court for a fourth consecutive season along those lines. They've really got to really sit down and look at this thing and say, what do we do here to make this better sooner rather than later? And the only way I think to do that, Rob, is to get as many draft picks back as you can, free yourself from this cap restraint you're under, and bring in a few good mid-level veterans to complement the youth movements that you're going to have to take within the immediate future.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, let's come back, Derek. I'll give you a couple of updates from what's going on with Eagles OTAs, which kicked off, about 35 minutes ago. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Some sports media news that's taking place. I'm curious where you fall on it. So we'll dig into that at our 2:00 segment. Tom Brady addresses whether or not he'll come back. Bill Belichick takes the blame. Matthew Slater rips the kickoff rule. And we're going to look at new coaches and which we think will be the most successful in the 2023 season. So we'll do all of that. Remember, last segment, we'll preview the Heat Nuggets NBA Finals. We'll get into that. We got birthdays. We got movies. We got a lot more for you, so don't go anywhere. He's Derek. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Pro Action Restoration. Pro Action Restoration is the place that you turn to if your home, your business, a property that you own may go through the inconvenience and pain and fear, frankly, of what happens when you get water, smoke, mold damage, etc. But here's the beauty. Pro Action Restoration is on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. I know I've gone through it on a Saturday. They got right out. They cleaned up the problem at my parents' house. The crew was professional, clean. The price was more than reasonable. They are licensed, bonded, and fully insured. Pro Action Restoration has been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades, and they will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So that's huge. Water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it all. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at JAKIB. At DryTech, we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Back. Thanks for hanging. Appreciate it. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. What's up, everybody in the chat section, everybody streaming, everybody listening. We do appreciate you. All right, Derek. So OTA's underway for the Eagles. Tell me what you think about this. I just want to bounce this off you, then we'll get to some of our sports media stuff. So these are voluntary, so that has to be pointed out. They don't have to be there. The players who are not there, at least from what I'm seeing from the tweets and the reports, are Lane Johnson. I think Lane's still recovering from the abductor. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Devontae Smith. Now, I have no idea. These guys could be, not that they even need to be excused, but they could have something else going on. That's important to note. I'm a little surprised if there isn't something else that Devontae wouldn't be there. How about you?
Well, he's got 2 years under his belt, and if the coaches are fine with it, why not? We don't know. Maybe it's a family issue. We don't know. I have no problem with that. You look at the numbers this young man's put up over 2 years. I'm not worried about Devontae missing OTAs. I mean, his first year in the NFL, he put up over 900 yards. Second year, he surpasses that 1,000-yard mark and then some, So I'm not worried about him. If it was a player a couple of years into the league like a Jalen Reagor, who didn't show up, I got a problem with that unless it's a family emergency or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
But with the Devontae Smith, I have no problems whatsoever. The other names you mentioned, I'm not surprised either.
No, all vets.
They know their role. Yeah, they know their roles. They know what there's no problem with that. They've earned that right.
Right.
Even though the NFL players don't practice much anymore as it is, they've earned that right to not be there if it's voluntary.
Yeah.
They're highly decorated players. So the names you mentioned, I have no problem with at all.
All right. Beyond that, not a surprise, but just to emphasize it, at least for the OTAs, the starting safeties were Edmonds and Blankenship. Some people thought, Brown's going to have to earn his way into that starting position. He's not going to be handed to him, in OTAs. He's going to have to go there and crush in camp. Then maybe he would take a role like that.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, Blankenship played well for the most part. He had a few snafus, but that's to be expected from a young player.
Yeah.
But if Brown wants that position, he's going to have to take it from Blankenship. It's not just going to be given to him. And there's a possibility he could take it before the season is over. I love everything about him. The fact that he dropped in the draft where he did, I'm still surprised. But that's the case with a lot of players. But the Eagles are smart enough to get him when they got him, where they got him. He's going to add great depth. Once he gets up to speed in the NFL level in terms of thinking quicker, reacting quicker, does he have to work on his tackling a little bit? Yes. But how many great tackling secondary people are out there in the NFL as it is today?
True.
Not many. Tackling is a lost art among secondary personnel in the NFL.
Yeah.
But he has all the other attributes: sideline to sideline, cover, competitive, combative. You can bring him down in the box, do a lot of things you need the safeties to do. I'm not surprised that Edmonds right now and Blankenship are your starters at this point.
All right. So Josh Tolentino, who covers the Eagles for the Inquirer, reported that Hurts just had a highlight play about 6 minutes ago. So they're playing 7-on-7, and he dropped a dime down the middle of the field that traveled perfectly over Nakobe Dean's outstretched arms to Quez Watkins for a big hitter. So they're nothing better than OTA play-by-play, Gunner. There you go. I know you love that kind of stuff.
The part that I'm happy about is that Quez didn't drop it. That's what I like. Quez didn't drop it. He secured the ball.
Yes.
But you know me, Rob. I don't get caught up in all the big plays that happen in OTAs and control practices and training camp.
Yep.
Because they're controlled for a reason. As competitive as you want to be, the bottom line is a coach's edict: don't get hurt, and more importantly, don't hurt your teammate.
Yeah.
So do what you can, hustle as much as you can, but then know when to let up at the last minute. Yep. The plays when the plays start to count in September, that's when I get caught up in the wow factor of plays, because that's when everybody's competing at the highest level to keep their jobs. When it comes to those practices, OTAs, and training camps, I go, okay, great throw, great catch, but you always have to add a but there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. All right. So I wanted to fire, if we get any more interesting stuff from OTAs, I'll pass it along. I'm trying to just monitor this stuff as much as I can. But I found this interesting. Shannon Sharp's leaving the Undisputed show that he does with Skip Bayless and FS1 after the NBA finals are over. So, in a couple weeks, you just sort of felt there was this building tension with he and Bayless. And look, a lot of that is staged debate nonsense, which we know, unfortunately, has turned into a lot of our, industry. But you genuinely felt like there was a dislike there. I'm surprised he's walking for the money. I thought they'd maybe try and find him a fit somewhere else, maybe. But I'm not surprised that this marriage is breaking up. Bayless can't be an easy guy to work with.
Well, I think the relationship was really strained after Bayless's comments about DeMar Hamlin.
Yep.
When that came out, and Shannon really took exception. Matter of fact, Shannon didn't even show up to the show the next day.
That's right.
He waited 2 days before he came out and fired back at Skip for his comments. And Skip, which surprised me, really didn't back off from what he said. He had plenty of time to really think about what he said. He apologized, but he didn't back off from what he said.
Yeah.
And I think the relationship, as strained as it could have been before that, I think that was the final straw in a lot of ways for the relationship between the two. But you're right. You don't just walk away from money like that unless you have something already in the works waiting in the wings for you. And the fact that Fox was willing to give Shannon a buyout tells me that they knew that somehow, somewhere, they had to quell this tension between them before it got more verbally volatile along the way, which is not good for a network look. So, and of course, Shannon's podcast is also leaving, and that was very popular as well for Fox. So you could tell that Fox was like, I'm glad somebody took the initiative to make this happen, because we don't know what could have happened beyond this point.
I'll ask it. I just brought it up, but I'll be curious if people want to react in the chat section. I would love to get your reaction and see where you fall on this. Like, to me, a lot of it, with whether it was, back in the day when Bayless worked with Stephen A. Smith or with Shannon Sharp and Stephen A., whoever they pair with him as well. I really loathe the fake debate thing. Now, I'm not saying some of the feelings that you hear from the host aren't sincere, but I know for a fact, because you and I have both been in these kind of meetings where producers are like, all right, well, why don't you say this? And then you say this, or you take this side. And it's like, I'm sorry. And I'm not trying to like, this is not but I could never do that. Like, I can never say something that I don't believe. Right. And there are a lot of hosts that have no problem doing that just to elicit reaction, either from the person they're sitting there across from, or from fans, or from social media. And I just could never sell out like that.
Well, for a lot of people, they do that, and there are a lot. It's about the bottom dollar. And because they're making a lot of money, they don't mind selling out. But I think it's not organic. It's not genuine. And you can tell. For those of us who have been in the business a long time, you can tell what's organic and what's manufactured in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And I can't do that. It's got to be organic. It's got to be from the heart with whoever I sit across from or sit across with. I wonder how much of Bayless is actually genuine, because a lot of people always disagree with what he says.
Yep.
I wonder how much is really heartfelt, or does he do it more so to generate viewership and conversation about their show, which obviously you look at the numbers to find out how many people are watching your show.
Right.
It works for him. He's making a lot of money doing it. He got a lot of money to leave ESPN to do it.
Yep.
I would just have to say, if that's what you want me to do, I'm not the person for you.
Right. Same. And again, if you measure things by just finances, I'm sure Skip is laughing all the way to the bank, right? And hey, good for you. If you can live with yourself and that kind of stuff, that's fine. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting, and we discussed this yesterday. Pat McAfee is going, and he's basically eating a big chunk of ESPN programming in the middle of that afternoon.
Yep.
And getting paid very handsomely to do it. I saw somebody earlier, and I apologize, whoever said it on the chat, if you want to just jump back in with that same question. They said, interesting that he's taking less money to go work at ESPN. Maybe. Sometimes I don't believe everything you see with contracts, and also understand that there's incentive clauses in there. He's also getting way more mass exposure being on ESPN than he was in some of his other platforms. Not to say he wasn't. He was obviously doing very well, or else they wouldn't have paid him that much. So it is an interesting move. And he's also, Derek, one of the things that he said was he's absolutely not changing his show. And one of the components of his show is he curses.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that on ESPN.
I did see where he said he won't be able to curse as much as he did on his other show. Right. I'm sure ESPN will put certain guidelines in there that you can't, there's certain words that you just cannot say here, because this is what we've stood for 30 years, 40 years, or whatever the case may be. They're going to give him the freedom to continue to be, Pat McAfee, but there has to be a certain restraint, because that does not bode well for a look that has a corporate image and has had a corporate image forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, agreed. But yeah, people want to jump in on that, just kind of where you fall with that. Oh, also, Derek, I'll get to this in a minute, but I'm curious. For me, I think everybody does, but I really appreciate a good studio show, because I don't think there's many of them anymore. Right. And what you get with that Inside the NBA with Charles, with Kenny, with Shaq, and Ernie Johnson, to me, is as good as it gets. I mean, it is a stark contrast from ESPN's, which I don't find enjoyable personally.
Well, when I look at their TNT show, I'm more entertained than I am informed. To me, that's pure entertainment because of the way they go at each other, the way me, you, and Barrett go at each other.
Right.
See? For me, I love a show like Fox's NFL pregame show with Howie, Terry Bradshaw, Jimmy Johnson, and those guys.
Yeah.
Because while they take shots at each other, they give you inside information and things to look for, and you go, "Oh, that's a good point." I don't normally say that when I watch the TNT show, and believe me, I watch it all the time because I love a lot of what they say to each other. Shaq is Shaq. He's a personality. Barkley is a personality. I think Kenny Smith is the father of the group. Now, and Ernie. Kenny and Ernie are the two who have to keep Charles and Shaq apart.
Yeah.
But Charles and Shaq suck Kenny and Ernie in because of their antics, their constant antics, which makes the show work.
Yeah.
There's no holds barred on the show. Okay. And I'm not learning. Now, I love Kenny's breakdown. That's what I learned a lot is from Kenny's breakdown when he runs to the big board.
Same.
When I'm just listening to the four guys talk, it's more about them trying to one-up each other in their conversation, more so than anything else.
Well, what's fun about them is we talked about the barbershop a little bit earlier. Like it's got that feel where they're just busting chops, you know what I mean? Giving each other a hard time, et cetera. That you're right. But I think you make an interesting distinction. Like you're not gleaning a ton of strategical, hey, look out for this. No, you're not. You're right. And like Ernie's the ultimate point guard. Kenny, I feel like almost feels like an allegiance to the players, or sometimes he'll be like, if Barkley's going off, Kenny will be like, listen, I get why he's saying this. I know, blah, blah, blah. And he'll give you that where Barkley's like, come on, man. And he'll just wreck it, dude. You know what I mean? So it's pretty interesting, man. But anyway, so I thought that was pretty good. I got a chance last night, Derek, to watch the Everything But the Chip last night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The NBA TV 2001 Sixers story. Very well done. I liked it a lot. I thought they did a really nice job of taking you back to that time. We lived it. We were in the building when it was happening. You and I. Of how the excitement level was for the fans during that 2001. Remember all the flags from the cars that were out during that time period. And just how wild it was constantly with Larry Brown and Allen Iverson, and how they're always at each other's throats, and how Billy King and Pat Croce had to play referee a lot of times with those guys and just trying to keep them on point. So I thought they did a really good job. If I had one, I don't know, critique, and it's not a heavy one. Like I would suggest to everybody, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's good. It is very good.
Now, you and I were there for the run. You know, we were working for NBC Sports. The team was right there in our building. And we knew a lot of stuff about that team inside and out.
Yes.
Was there anything that you watched on this? I haven't seen it yet. That made you go, "Oh wow, I didn't know that."
Yes, there was one. Okay, so there was like a real knockdown drag out that they had that Larry and Allen had. So they're at the practice facility. They're at their PCOM, which is where the Sixers used to practice before they had their own facility. They go into a room. So the practice is just about to start. Pat Croce shows up and he says, "We're not starting practice yet. Right. Larry and Allen, we got to talk. Like, let's go." So when they go into this room, and it's Larry, Allen, Pat Croce, and Billy King. And the players, to a man, like Aaron McKee and all these guys are saying, as soon as they went into that office, we all were like this with our ears pressed to the door listening, right? And they said all they could hear was like screaming at each other and F-bombs being dropped, et cetera, et cetera. And it was crazy back and forth. And like they were all like, and then when it got quiet, they all sort of ran back to make pretend like they were kids, like pretend like they were practicing.
Right.
So Pat Croce basically said, "Look, I'm not firing him and I'm not trading him. So you both better get used to each other. We got to figure this out." And he said, "Allen, I'll start with you. How would you like it if every time you came out of a game as a coach, the player MF'd you?" That's what Allen would do if he was pulled out. "Don't take me out, bleepy, bleep, bleep, bleep." Right. And then he went, "All right, Larry, how would you like it if every single time, this guy's giving you everything that he possibly has on the floor, and you're still cutting him down with every little critique where this guy's laying his body on, whatever." And he's kind of trying to open the eyes of both of these two guys. And he said after a while, they both sort of realized they needed each other. And from that time period on, those two operated very well with one another. And the cool thing is the players said was, when those two came back out, they were just waiting for like fireworks or Allen to be like, "I'm not even practicing." He said they squashed it and they both acted like pros. Like Allen busted it in practice that day. Larry was, coaching everybody up and doing his thing. And they both were like pros about it. So that was kind of neat. I didn't know that, sort of behind the scenes kind of stuff. So I thought that was pretty good. But I would tell you good. If I had one little criticism, I thought they went through the Milwaukee series and the Toronto series, which got them into the finals pretty quickly. They only really focused on like game 7. I think you needed a little bit more. Those series were nuts. Mm-hmm. So that again, if there's one beef, it's that, but I would say definitely worth it if you're a Sixers or NBA fan. And Allen's very
candid.
And he's also very like, he said at one point, like 99.9% of the issues were on me. Like he owned it. He owned a lot of the stuff, which I thought he's maturing. I mean, he's not a young man anymore. So
right.
I thought that was pretty cool. So I thought it was all in all thumbs up. I give it a thumbs up. You get a chance to check it out.
Anytime you see a documentary like this, I always come away thinking, I wonder how much the organization, because obviously before it's released, the organization has to look at it and give their seal of approval.
Right.
I wonder how much the organization said, "Okay, take this out. We don't need to rehash this." I wonder if they had, control over how much control over the editing of it that they had, the certain snippets of interviews that they had, maybe a certain facet of that era, that relationship that really just needs to stay buried. You know what I mean?
Right.
I always think about that kind of stuff when I look at these documentaries.
Yeah, it's true. It's always, the kind of in retrospect, what is really going on here. Yeah, that is interesting. All right, let's get a timeout. Let's dive into the NFL here, Derek. We got a bunch to get into, including Tom Brady, heroic moment from Raheem Morris, Bill Belichick, Matthew Slater, and which NFL coaches, first-year NFL coaches, will have the greatest success. We'll dive into their situations when we come back. Don't go anywhere. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I'm going to tell you right now about Flynn Tree Services. Yes, they are an experienced, licensed, and insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They are experts trimming all types of trees, and they serve southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and northern Delaware. Flynn Tree Services specializes in tree removal, stump grinding, as well as tree pruning. Keep in mind, it's a great time of year right now, weather-wise. It's an awesome time to have your trees evaluated because when the summer hits, we can get the heavy rain, the heavy wind, etc. So get that checked out now. You go to their Facebook or Instagram page for more information or a sampling of their work. Give Flynn Tree Services a call at 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flynntreeservices.com. That's flynntreeservices.com.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia Dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
again.
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Back, hour number 3. Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis hanging out with you. Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. All right, Gunner, let's talk some NFL here. There was some speculation that Tom Brady still may come back, for obvious reasons, because he retired once and came back again. But this time he says absolutely unequivocally he is not coming back. In fact, he's relieved to know the NFL season is kind of kicking off now with OTAs and whatnot, and camp's right around the corner, and he does not have to, go through all the preparation and everything else that's involved. He said, you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. Don't worry about it. The Raiders part of this thing that I have part ownership and all that. I'm done playing football. Call me a sucker if this thing changes, but I believe him. I think last year he went through a lot personally.
Yep.
I think he got beat up with a bad offensive line, and he probably said, you know what? I'm pushing this thing already. probably best that I step aside and call it a career.
You have a mega TV contract sitting there waiting for you. You're 45 years old. You've played the game much longer than anybody ever anticipated. Why would you want to come back now? You know, and the thing is, the contract he has in front of him doesn't involve physical abuse to his body anymore. He doesn't have to be there, the first guy in there in the 6 a.m. in the morning and the last guy out at night.
Right.
He gets to sit in a booth for maybe 20 weeks out of a year. And most of those guys, you know, they go to their destinations like on a Thursday, the interview coaches and players, some of them on Friday or Saturday. You do the game on a Sunday or a Monday, whatever game you're doing, Sunday usually. And then you go home. And all you got to do is study. All you have to do is study rosters and players for the next week. You're not studying tendencies of opponents. You're studying background information on players that help you get through talking points during a live broadcast. The mental and physical relief that he has compared to playing the game, practicing, OTAs, mandatory minicamps, travel, it's more than taking its toll.
Yeah.
And he's still a young man. I don't blame him. I mean, why even contemplate it? I mean, the man's won 7 rings.
You've done it all. You've done it all.
He's won 7 rings. What else do you want?
Well, and you know, the other thing is, A, if you play the quarterback position, and B, if you're him, like you said, you're first in, last out. This is not, hey, I'm just showing up for practice and I'm gonna leave. I'll be the first one out. He's not wired like that. He's got to go hard. He's got to do the whole diet thing. He's got to train the way he knows how to train. It's a whole lifestyle. It's not just during football season. Exactly. It's everything.
You know, and I would imagine part of the equation is, well, now I get to spend more time with my kids.
Yeah.
Considering what he went through with the divorce and everything and how public that became.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure there's some guilt there involved in terms of missing important moments you'll never get back with your kids at a small age.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to make up for that. And the dude's got money. He can take them anywhere in the world. He can do anything for them, put them in the best positions to succeed. Never has to worry about a dime the rest of his life, you know, because unlike most football players, they got to scramble and figure out what I want to do next.
Yep.
He's got a mega contract sitting in front of him as well. He doesn't have to worry about all I have to do now is talk about what I did for the last 20 plus years of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm getting paid. Getting paid player money to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. No question.
It's a perfect world. Yeah.
All right. So there's that piece. And I like I said, I do believe him. This story is awesome. So Raheem Morris, who's the defensive coordinator for the Rams, is vacationing with his family in Vegas, and they're at the hotel. And unfortunately, there's I think a 3-year-old. I think the young child was 3. There's a 3-year-old child who was drowning in a pool. So he sees a crowd sort of go over there. He runs over himself. The lifeguards are involved, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, it's a scary moment, obviously, for everybody involved. So he's just basically doing anything that he can to assist and help out. And he ends up getting these AED systems, which are the paddles, like the shock your heart back into place. And he grabbed it and he brought it over as other people were working on this kid to try and save him or her. And, you know, he basically got the thing out. He knows how to work. So fortunately, the Rams as an organization teach their personnel first aid and other things. So he knew how to get it out, how to set it up, and just basically handed it to the guy. Boom. They used it. And it helped save the kid. And the kid he went to the hospital, but apparently he's been discharged. It's good to go. So, man, props to Raheem Morris stepping up big in a huge moment.
The parental instinct took over.
Yep.
And he stepped in and did what you have to do. And, you know, that NFL / emergency training really came into play at that point. Yep. So kudos to him, man. You know, we heard the story about the player down in Tampa who lost his 2-year-old child. The child was drowning in a backyard pool. And just to see this story turn out for the better is so good, man. And And I'm happy he was there with that training that he had to be able to assist in a critical situation like that.
Yeah, pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Great stuff right there. All right, beyond that, who knows what to make of this, but Belichick falls on the sword for the Patriots losing those OTAs, if you remember, and they got the $50,000 fine.
Yep.
He said, it's on me. Who knows if it was on him or it was on Joe Judge. He wasn't going to throw Judge under the bus, so he took the fall for it. But
it's
it
what
sounds
your leader
like,
does. It's what your leader
right.
does. Yeah.
And it sounds like by the reports, it was probably more of Judge's fault than it is, Belichick's fault, but whatever.
Right.
So he said it was on me. This one was interesting too, Derek. Speaking of the Patriots, Matthew Slater, who's been a perennial Pro Bowler on the special team side of the things for the Patriots his whole career. He really ripped into the new kickoff rules where you can basically do a fair catch anywhere on the field and get it at the 25. So what he had a couple things on this. His problem wasn't so much with the league enforcing the rule, because he said, I get it. They're trying to prevent head injuries, and I'm all for that too. He said, but if you're going to do this, let's really do it. Let's go all in. No more flexing on Thursday night. No more Thursday night games where we're turning around and playing 4 days later. Get us off this synthetic turf, which shreds our legs and our knees and our ankles and everything else. So if we're going to really do it, let's be real about this. Let's not pick and choose certain things. He makes a pretty good point.
All valid points, and rightfully so. But when you look at the NFL statistics, the kickoff was one of the leading factors that led to a lot of head traumas. They try to curtail it the first time by getting away with the wedge to lessen the violent collisions. And now they're taking it a step farther. He was right. I believe you said in our show meeting when we talked that he also said if it wasn't for special teams, he might not have a job in the NFL.
Yeah, that was the other part. He said, look, if I was breaking in now and this rule was in place, I probably wouldn't have had a career. And he said there are a lot of other guys like me. He referred to Bill Bates, who old cowboy, Steve Tasker, old Bill. And he went through a bunch of guys who were just special teams players through their career. He said none of us probably have NFL careers at all. And I get that from his perspective.
I get it as well.
Yeah.
I think the league has taken so much heat for its lack of attendance to the head trauma issues back in the 90s that they're going overboard with it now. They keep coming out with new helmets. They use these protective caps on helmets now. Now they're trying to do different things within the game to reduce this. No chop blocking, no hitting below the belt, no blindside blocking, so on and so forth. Slater has a valid point about costing players jobs, but the bottom line is those that play the game. The NFL is now trying to do everything possible to make you safer so that you have a better quality of life when you walk away from the game. Maybe a little over the top, but college football has been doing it for years, and I'm not surprised the NFL has followed suit.
I hear you. Back to Eagles OTAs today. So as we expected, Nakobe Dean is wearing the green dot, Derek, which means he has the microphone in his helmet, and the plays will be called into him, and he will, translate those to his fellow defensive players. That's a big responsibility for a second-year guy, first-year starter.
Yeah. Well,
tells you a little something about there's some trust factor there with him.
Yeah, it has to be, because you have a year under your belt now. You may have to learn a new system, new terminology, but you understand what's required of you at this level.
Right.
You are our guy. We look at our linebacking situation. You are our man in the middle. So you have to do this. You're on a crash course. You have to get this down. The more reps you get under Sean Desai's system, terminology, so on and so forth, it's going to become second nature to you sooner or later. So I'm not surprised. And the middle linebacker usually sets the defense anyway. Usually sets the guys in front of them and the linebackers to each side of them anyway. So this is a natural progression for you now. It's your time to shine. Take the reins and master this, because you will be counted on heavily coming up this season.
Yep, no question, he will. That I would say this, Derek. If we're the sort of new face guys, I guess you could throw like Swift into it and Penny into it. go on the offensive side, whether it's Steen or whether it's Juergens.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the guy I'm most intrigued to watch and see if he can actually play is the Kobe Dean.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. I have all these vivid images in my head of what he did at Georgia, and looking at the games he played, the different film studies that I looked at that he played in. I can't wait to see what he can do at this level. If he can be that same kind of impact player at this level that he was at the collegiate level. You're right. He's the one player who constantly comes to my mind first and foremost when it comes to the new wave of players that will be assuming significant roles on either side of the football. He's at the top of my list of watching closely this season.
I think it would be him, and not that we didn't see him at all last year. We did, but what's Jordan Davis, and apparently everybody there today, and again, take this for whatever it's worth, said he looks like he's in great shape. So he comes into this thing in really good shape. But I want to see Jordan Davis, if not an every down player, close to it. He's got to make a major impact. I mean, you traded up to get him 2 drafts ago.
You did, but I think with the presence of Jalen Carter now, I don't think he's going to be an every down player. I still think he's going to be a situational player. I do think he's going to play more than 20 snaps a game if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to be that 3 down player that everybody's thinking he's going to be. You have Jalen Carter in there for a reason. You drafted him in there for a reason. I believe Jalen Carter is going to play more snaps than Jordan Davis this coming season.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree with you 100%. I'm on record. I think he gets the most snaps of any defensive tackle.
I agree. And that includes Fletcher Cox. I agree.
100%.
I agree. His ability to move laterally, his ability to get push in the trenches, to hold his own in the trenches, to get after the quarterback, I do believe he's going to probably have the most snaps of any tackle. You're right. I agree.
Yeah. All right. So let's dive into this thing, Derek. So by my count, there's 5 new NFL coaches this year.
Yep.
And they are as follows. Carolina's got Frank Reich.
Yep.
Houston has DeMeco Ryans. Indianapolis has Shane Steichen. Arizona has everybody's favorite, Jonathan Gannon. And then there's Sean Payton in Denver. Am I missing anything there? I don't think so, right?
No.
Okay. So let's take a couple minutes on each of these situations and who we think is going to have the greatest impact and the greatest success. Let's start with Reich. Carolina traded up to get the number 1 overall pick, which told you they really liked Bryce Young. You're not giving up what they gave up to get up there unless you do. And they took Bryce Young. They also, as crazy as it was, after they fired Matt Rule last year and traded away or cut Baker Mayfield, whatever it was, cut him, I think, right? And traded McCaffrey. After all that went down, they actually started playing pretty well. Like there's some talent on that team. I'm optimistic. I don't think they're a playoff team, and I don't think they're even really a 500 team, but I could see 8 and 9, something like that for them.
For a team that's in transition, I think they're in the perfect division. That division is wide open.
Yeah.
Even with Derek Carr in New Orleans, that's still a division that's wide open. And Frank Reich walks into a situation where the team finished tied for second place. 3 teams at 7-10 records in that division. And he walks into a situation where he has talent on both sides of the football. It's not a DeMeco Ryans situation where you got to build this thing from the bottom up.
Yeah.
You went out, you brought in Miles Sanders, you have Chuba Hubbard, so you got a great 1-2 punch in your backfield. You added Adam Thielen, who's got a fresh start. You got DJ Chark, you got Hayden Hurst as your tight end. You got Terrence Marshall Jr. You got Laviska Shenault as a receiver, as a 4th receiver as well. You got plenty of talent on this team. And you have a guy in Frank Reich who is a great quarterback coach.
Right.
Now, I'm looking at different sites, and people already penciling in Bryce Young as the starter day 1. I don't see it that way. I see Andy Dalton starting first, and then now he may get a quick hook because people will be clamoring to see Bryce Young sooner rather than later. And, of course, depending on how quickly Bryce can pick up the offensive system will determine when he gets in there.
Yeah.
But this is still a team in a division where they can be competitive and compete for the division title because everybody is on such an even keel in that division.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. The division thing is very important. All right, well, let's go Ryans then. I think this is a real challenge in front of them simply from a roster standpoint. But I will say this. I loved what they did at the draft with the aggressiveness.
Yes.
That to me was kind of spoke volumes. Stroud and Will Anderson, boom, boom. Like, okay, that just tells you this is, we're not playing here. We're trying to turn this thing around relatively quickly.
Now, Houston is the situation where I could see CJ Stroud starting. This is a team that won 3 games last year.
Yeah.
So if they win 5 games, they're moving in the right direction. This is a situation where he's competing against Davis Mills and Case Keenum, and I think he can win that. They went out and got Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary basically signing with a team that's at the bottom trying to find his way was interesting in itself. Mm-hmm. But they also add Robert Woods and Noah Brown. So they've got pieces here.
Yeah.
It's not like they're devoid of talent. They got Will Anderson. They have Malik Collins, the former Cowboy. Sheldon Rankins on their defense. You got middle linebackers. Christian Kirksey is a good linebacker. Denzel Perryman's a good outside linebacker. You have Jimmy Ward and Derek Singletary, Derek Stingley on the back end of your defense. This is a team that has pieces, man, to compete. They even have I forgot they got Shaquille Griffith on that team as well.
Yeah.
When I look at D'Amico Ryans, what's funny is, and I got to know D'Amico well when he was with the Eagles, he was always such a mild-mannered, low-key type guy. I never envisioned him being this fiery coach who can jumpstart people. And obviously, him taking over for Robert Saleh turned out to be the best thing the 49ers could have done because that defense never missed a beat. So it tells me that he knows his defense inside and out well. He has the components already to put on the field a very stout defense. I mean, just as guys up front, Jerry Hughes, Sheldon Rankins, Malik Collins, Will Anderson Jr. I mean, that's a formidable group right there.
Yeah, it is.
His linebackers and Christian Harris, Christian Kirksey, and Denzel Perryman. That's not a bad group of linebackers. And then you look at the 2 guys, one in safety and Jimmy Ward, and one at cornerback in Stingley. He's playing chess with some very, very potent pieces there. I expect Houston to win at least 5-6 games this year.
Yeah, I do too.
With the rookie quarterback.
I think they finally, what they've done with coaches over the last couple of years has been ridiculous. But I think D'Amico Ryans is that guy. Like, I think he will get them turned around. I like CJ Stroud, and I love some of the other things they did defensively. I'm with you. Another one here with this AFC South is the Colts. Shane Steichen goes there. They drafted Anthony Richardson. You would think if Richardson has the kind of work ethic and will that Jalen Hurts has, he's in a good situation with Steichen, who got to work with Jalen Hurts the last couple of years. Like, that could be a real nice fit with those two kind of growing together. There's still a good offensive line intact there.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense took a couple steps back for sure. They still have Jonathan Taylor, which is a quarterback's best friend. That dude is a stud. I don't love his wideouts necessarily.
No.
But Steichen impressed me with his play calling, comes off as a really smart guy. So they're intriguing to me, the Colts.
I look at the situation, and both Minshew and Anthony Richardson are the type of quarterbacks who run a Shane Steichen offense that he needed. It's not like he has to take his playbook and shred it down to fit the style of quarterback he has. Gardner Minshew knows the offense already. Anthony Richardson has the athleticism to run this offense and to do some things similar to what Jalen Hurts is doing here in Philadelphia. Outside of Michael Pittman Jr., I'm not really enamored with their wide receiving core or their tight end situation as well. Defensively, they're going to have one of the better defenses in the league. And when I say that, I mean like one of the top 12, 13 defenses in the league. They have a lot of good talent on that defense. I just don't see them, even though there's another team that's in a division where they could do some damage. I think Steichen's going to be a year away from turning that thing around. He's got to get Richardson up to speed. I think Minshew is just a temporary fix until the young kid is ready. And I think the kid will play enough. He might get in some wildcat formations, but he'll get in enough just to get acclimated to the NFL style of football. But it won't be until 2024 when Shane Steichen's team as a whole will really begin to try to make a push up the ladder in the AFC South.
Yeah, in fairness to really, I mean, all three of these guys that we just went through, they need some time. Like you better have a little bit of patience, even though we have no patience in this day and age if you're their bosses, because they're taking over some reclamation projects, you know, for sure. Look, Derek, this is the one I have the least amount of confidence in. Gannon in Arizona. I don't like the quarterback. I don't like the personnel. I thought they had an okay draft, but I don't like a lot of what's going on there in the front office. I don't like the owner. I don't like there's always seems to be not quite Washington Commander level stuff, but probably the next tier of stuff, lawsuits and like there's a lot going on there. It does not bode well for him. And the fact that like he didn't address certain things. Remember, he didn't meet after the draft. Like, what are you doing, dude?
Right.
Weird.
Well, first of all, you have a quarterback that's alienated people in the organization. And even a premier wide receiver like DeAndre Hopkins says, hey, this guy's got some growing to do. The running back situation is decent. Wide receiver, they have Marquise Brown. He can stretch the field. They added Zach Pascal for possession receiver. Rondale Moore's a good receiver for them as well. Zach Ertz, we know what Zach Ertz is. He's a good possession receiver.
Right.
Their offensive line is decent. They added Paris Johnson Jr. to shore up the left guard position. You have DJ Humphries playing the left tackle. Will Hernandez, to me, you know, he never really panned out with the Giants. And to me, he's just a journeyman. So they've got some question marks along that offensive line. Defensively, you know, Budda Baker's still there, but for how long? Will he still be there? Isaiah Simmons, I like. But he didn't play up to expectation. I think this team is hurting on defense across the board. Kazir White is now the middle linebacker for them. He's okay. We saw what he did here.
Solid. He's not special.
No, he's not special. Yeah. And I think Jonathan Gannon walked into a quagmire of a mess with Arizona. And, you know, people there want to win. They want a winning football team. And I don't think this team is going to be anywhere near a winning football team coming out of the gate. Starting quarterback probably is not even going to start the first few games for him as he continues his rehab. And after that, you got Colt McCoy, Clayton Tune, and David Blau.
Oof.
To me, you know, of the backouts, David Blau to me is more promising. Colt McCoy has been in the league for over a decade.
Well, look, and Big Sills asked, am I off the bandwagon? Yes, I am. I am officially off, Dan.
Big Sills, it took me a long time to get him to see D-Gun's way of thinking.
Yes.
But I finally got to him.
I sold it, and it went to a, what do they call it, chop shop, and they just went, they just crushed it.
Just tore it down,
yeah. So yes, I'm off. But and I always go back and forth on this. Like there's only so many head coaching jobs, and there's only so many opportunities that you're going to get. So part of me is like, look, if anybody offers one, grab it. And then there's another part of me that says, do you really want to set yourself up for failure with a losing franchise?
Yeah.
And the Cardinals to me are a losing franchise. So again, I'm kind of torn on that. Like, I don't know if I totally fault Gannon for taking it. At the same time, I don't think he's going to have success there. I just don't.
You have 32 teams that have head coaches in the National Football League. You have spent your entire career up to this point wanting to be a head coach. I don't care if you had to get a head coaching job in Beirut, if Beirut was in the National Football League. You take that opportunity, and that's what Jonathan Gannon did.
Yeah.
He took that opportunity. Now, as we look at it right now, we see more failure than success on the horizon. But if he is able to turn that thing around, it will bode well for him, whether he renegotiates with Arizona in a couple of years or if he decides he wants to go somewhere else. Those are opportunities you don't turn down, Rob.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be assistant. Some guys like a Jeff Stoutland, they're okay.
Yeah, he doesn't want
their role in life. He doesn't want that headache
of
always having to meet with the media and being a front man when things go bad.
Yep.
But there are other guys, there are a lot of other guys who go from being position coaches, graduate assistant coaches, position coaches, coordinators, and head coaches, the next, natural step for you. And I don't blame Jonathan Gannon for taking that job in any way, shape, or form. Number one, He goes to Arizona, which to me is a great place to live. I love Arizona. Number 2, you're finally one of 32 brethren as a head coach in the National Football League. And whether you succeed or fail at it, you've had that one shining moment in your life. And it could open the doors for something else, whether on the pro level or collegiate level as well. You take that opportunity. You can't pass that up.
I agree. Look, I agree. And again, it's not a knock on him taking it. I think he's just going to have a really tough time.
Right.
All right. Well, look, I saved the last for I think who's going to be the best, and that's Sean Payton. We know the track record. We know the success that he had in New Orleans. He takes over a situation, in Denver where defensively there's a lot of talent. Offensively, there's talent. It just wasn't harnessed properly in a lot of ways. And the key to this thing is just unlocking Russell Wilson and getting him back to a facsimile of what he was. If there's anybody to do it, there's anybody that can do it, I think it's Sean Payton. I think Denver's a playoff team this year. What do you think?
I couldn't agree with you more. I don't see anybody catching Kansas City in that division, but I do think Sean Payton's presence with the current talent that he has, he can easily overtake the Chargers and the Raiders in that division and put himself in a prime position to get to the playoffs. You're looking at Denver's defense, and you said that Denver. Well, how did you word it? What did you say?
Very good defense last year, and the key is for me offensively is just unlocking that potential or whatever to just take Russell Wilson back to yesteryear or whatever. Yeah. That's what you got to do.
See, here's a Denver defense that finished 7th in the league with all the mess they had with Nathaniel Hackett running the show. Yep. This defense still finished 7th in the league.
Yeah.
They only gave up 320 yards a game as a defense. They gave up 110 yards rushing, but the big one here, they only gave up 21 points a game.
They were leading the league, Derek, in points allowed, and they were last in points scored for a lot of the season. It kind of flipped a little bit later, but still, they were.
No question.
The defense was doing its job.
There's no question. The offense thoroughly let them down. They have a good offensive line, although I'm not a big fan of Mike McGlinchey. Now Mike McGlinchey is a right tackle in Denver.
Yep.
We'll see how long that holds up.
He was Barrett's favorite offensive line.
Barrett's favorite offensive lineman, yeah. So, but you look at everything else they have. My goodness, man, from Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Marvin Mims, KJ Hamler. The running back situations, Samaj P. Ryan, Javonte Williams, what else could you want? What else could you want to walk into?
Yeah.
The defense is set. The defense will hold its own. I mean, you got Patrick Surtain, you got Randy Gregory, even Alex Singleton started for them in the defense.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a volume tackler. That's what you know about him.
Yeah, so sure. you got everything you want there. Yeah. You just needed the right coach, and Sean Payton is the right coach to light the fire under this team. And I do believe a Sean Payton offense will bring out the best in Russell Wilson again. I do believe Russell Wilson will surpass 4,000 yards passing and will throw for 30 touchdowns this season.
Yeah, and real quick, just back to the point we were making before, Sills makes a good point. Look at what Doug Peterson did in Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
True, no doubt. No question. And back to the point we were also talking about, if you're a guy who passes, like, stay with Jacksonville for a minute. What we had heard was it was Byron Leftwich's job to lose if he wanted
to lose. Yep.
He chose not to take the job. He stays in Tampa. They have a bad year. He ends up getting let go by Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't think he's coaching anywhere. He's certainly not a head coach.
No.
So you just have to be careful turning things down. Some of it is trust in yourself that you can fix a bad situation too.
Yes.
So anyway, but again, it kind of cuts both ways. But I agree with you. I think Sean Payton, the smartest thing that he did when he went to Denver was he put his foot down and he said, "Look, Russell, I know who you are, but we're not going to have this. This didn't work last year. We're not having your personal guy here. We have our coaches, and you're going to have one locker like everybody else has. And we're a team, and we got to get back to that." And to Russell Wilson's credit, I didn't hear any kind of pushback in any reports of any of that. So maybe he realized it was kind of getting out of control too. So good for him. But I think Payton this is what Nick Nurse kind of needs to do with Embiid, Derek, is get in here and say, "Look, Joel, I got you, but you're going to be held accountable just like everybody else is. And just know that that's the way this is going to be." And hopefully, Joel will respond well. I hope so. But that's it. That's it.
A lot of times when coaches go into new places, you have to kind of tiptoe in because you want the players to receive you with open arms and not look at you cross-eyed. When you're Sean Payton, you go in blazing because of your name. Yeah. This is my show now. This is how we're going to do things. If you don't feel you can comply with what I'm going to implement, tell me now and we'll find you a new home.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be with Nick Nurse. Look, I've won an NBA title. This team hasn't won a title since how long?
1983, okay. 40 years.
1983, 40 years.
Yep.
So I'm asking you people to buy in and give me a chance. If you don't feel you can buy in, let's talk about it and see if we can move you.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, let's find out now. We don't need to find this out 3/4 of the way through the
November,
season.
December. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff there. All right, let's come back, Derek. Let's get a little preview of game 1 tonight between the Heat and the Nuggets. We'll get our series predictions. Also, you had an interesting factoid regarding start times, which we will dive into. I want to throw this at you because perhaps the player of the year, not perhaps, he was the player of the year in college basketball, is coming back. And it may have something to do with the way things have changed in college sports. So we'll do that. We'll do birthdays. We'll do movies. We got a lot going. We'll hit it all when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about our friends at Razor Technology because data is everywhere in business today. But when it's locked away in silos, it can't be efficiently used. And businesses don't have time to wait for the insights that shape that decision-making. Razor Technology's data management not only integrates data from wherever it's generated or collected, but provides a uniform structure for storing, interpreting, and distributing it to decision makers. Razor helps businesses transform and model their data, use it to populate real-time dashboards, and create shareable reports that highlight key areas of progress, as well as warning signs in need of attention. Smart data analytics and the tools to make data insights easily digestible help businesses of all sizes and types discover where they could be untapping significant savings. Razor Technology can help you break down your silos and fully realize the value of your data to drive growth for your business. To learn more, contact Razor Technology today at 866-797-3282, 866-797-3282, or visit them online at razor-tech.com. That's razor-tech.com.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save in Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
We're back. Thanks for hanging out with us. We do appreciate it. Final segment of the program. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We're Sports Take. Gunner, did you see Kelsey last night at the Union game?
Did he? And I heard he broke something.
He almost broke they had him like bang the drum, which is one of their traditions before the game. And he's taking these like wham, like he is, and you know how strong that dude is. So he I don't think it broke, but it looked like it might have been a little fractured, if you will. So after he does that, he pulls a beer out of his back pocket. He chugs the beer down. He spikes it, and he starts getting the crowd, and they're all going nuts, as you would expect. It was classic Kelsey. It was just classic, man.
Great marketing.
Oh, he's unbelievable, man. He's like America's guest, and I mean that in a good way. Like he was down the shore this past weekend on the beach. Like I'm friends with people on Facebook who are showing Jason Kelsey and my son having a popsicle. I'm like, okay, great. You
know what I love about Kelsey the most is he doesn't separate himself from the people.
No,
he rolls his sleeves up and he gets right in there with them. He's just, if you didn't know what Jason Kelsey did for a living, he'd be just one of the good old boys sitting there having a good time with you, man.
Yep.
And the fact that, let's face it, you got to be careful where you go nowadays because you always get these knuckleheads that drink too much and say something stupid and they'll try to swing on somebody, say, hey, I got into a fight with an NFL player. Kelsey doesn't care, man. He goes out there and he enjoys himself, man. And I love that about him.
Yes, I do too. I do too. He's a lot like Charles Barkley in that sense that he's a man among the people. Like Barkley does not hide. He's not like Barkley will go to restaurants and mingle and is a people person, and Kelsey's that way too. And you just hope people respect their space and the fact that they're willing to do that. So yeah, I hear you 100%.
Although Barkley has to be careful where he goes in San Antonio.
That is correct. Some of the population are not big fans of his with some of his comments. So we'll just leave it.
Churros. The churros.
You said it, not me, my friend. All right.
I didn't say who was eating the churros.
Okay. Yes, you are correct. It had something to do with that. Yes. Brett Kern has retired, Derek. The Eagles punter for about 5 minutes when Sippos got injured. If you remember from last year, came over from the Titans, was on the free agent market. They picked him up, and he is officially retired as a Titan today. So he is not an option for the Eagles.
Didn't he play like 15 years or something in the league?
Yeah, really good career. Really good career.
It's time to go. He gets it.
Yep.
He's made decent kicker money.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another guy. He's rich but not wealthy. He's not like Tom Brady wealthy.
Yeah.
But he's still, if he's smart with his money, and we were talking about the Eagles kicking situation. And so I put out a feeler and I said, will you look at Ariza? And they said, no, we have 2 guys in camp already. I said, please don't tell me you're going with Sippos again. And I heard, no, we got an undrafted rookie who's got a good leg we really like. So keep an eye on this undrafted rookie who may let you get your boy Sippos a pink slip.
Okay, I will be. I'll get his jersey, Derek. Whatever number he's wearing.
Who's Sippos?
No, Zettner or whatever his name is. I'll be his biggest fan. Trust me.
Oh man.
All right, so Heat Nuggets tonight, game 1, Derek. I haven't looked at the. I'm going to pull it up right now as we speak. I'm just seeing what the point spread is for this game 1. Game 1's in Denver. Okay, Nuggets are -9. -9.
Okay. All right.
But you know what? It feels like we were saying that every game with the Heat. They were 7.5 point favorites in game 7 the other night, and they go in there and they crush Boston. I'm thinking close game. Denver wins. I think it's like a 5-6 point. I wouldn't touch that point spread, but I think Denver wins the game.
I agree with you, even though they've had this lengthy layoff. I think Miami is about to play a team that's unlike anything they've seen through the Eastern Conference in terms of a team that gets up and down the floor. I don't know if Miami has anybody that can stop Jokic. I really don't. It's going to be great to see Jokic and Jimmy Butler do their thing in the finals. For as much of a junkyard dog mentality, don't count us out mentality that the Miami Heat have had this season, I just think you're facing the creme de la creme in terms of the last two teams standing. And I expect it to be a good series. I think it'll be close. Miami, has had a few days rest. And as the series wears on, it's going to be interesting because I keep hearing that Tyler Hero could be back by game 3. And if that's the case, they could use his outside shooting. For as well versed as Miami's been in terms of hitting the outside shot, they could definitely use Tyler Hero back in the arsenal if he's ready to go against this Denver team.
Yeah, and we haven't heard anything yet. I know he was warming up a lot before Game 7. Right. And they thought maybe he'd be able to go in Game 7. So it feels like he's close. So we'll see. I mean, look, there's also the rust factor with Denver. But then again, there's the altitude factor that Miami's going to have to be dealing with. So
yes,
there's a lot of things that come into play. But you made a great point earlier. We were talking about this. It's the first time in 20 years that a finals game is tipped off before 9 p.m. Eastern. They get an 8:30 tip off.
Yes, can you believe that?
That's
Think about how many times we used to complain about games ending close to midnight. On the East Coast, obviously, it's 9 o'clock on the West Coast, but I think with the time, them moving it up by a half hour still caters to the Mountain Time zone because 8:30 here, 6:30 there, and games end by 8:30, 9 o'clock in Mountain Time instead of like 10, 11 o'clock. That's a big difference. Even if they did start at 9 o'clock, because it's the first time Denver's gotten this close to a championship,
right?
Man, fans will probably be there at 1 a.m. if they had to,
right?
But yeah, I found it interesting that the NBA decided to move games up by a half hour, which from my perspective is much better for us.
Oh, you're never going to hear me complain about them moving a game up to be earlier. That's for sure. I mean, you and I are going to be dealing with enough of late Eagles starts this year. That's for sure. Yeah. So anyway, a good work out of the NBA. Yeah, keep them where they are. That's for sure. Zach Edey. Now, if you don't follow college hoops, you may not be all that familiar with him, but he was the player of the year at Purdue. Purdue ended up not going as far as people had anticipated. They were a 1 seed, but they got knocked out early. But he's a lot of people thought he was going to come out this past year. He put his name in the draft, but also gave himself the option of coming back to Purdue for the season. And to a lot of people's surprise, he's coming back, Derek. And there are folks out there that are attributing this to the NIL money that's available to these guys, where they can make a very nice living playing college basketball, whereas before either they weren't making anything or they're making something under the table, but it was nowhere near this kind of coin. So this could result in more kids coming back or staying a little bit longer than they normally would. And now, not everybody subscribes to that, but this Zach Edey did. It's interesting.
I just when I looked at his game, I just thought that he excelled just because he was so much bigger than everybody else.
Yeah.
There was nothing that really stood out about him. Not many moves to the bucket. Doesn't have a great jump shot. Maybe those who advise him, hey, look, man, you need to work on your game a little bit more. You got to get that extra season in because you can move up the ladder in terms of being a top 5 pick. I just thought that he's a big body who's able to do some of the things he does because nobody hardly can match up with him in the Big Ten. Yeah. But you're right now with the money these kids can make in the NIL. Why not? It's less pressure to go back to play college ball than it is in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And you can still make possibly high 6-7 figure income on side money before you even make the transition to the pros.
Exactly.
Why not go back?
I hear you. And that's an interesting offshoot, to what's going on these days in the college game. All right, ready for a little birthday activity?
Birthday on this first day of June.
There we go. Let's go Marilyn Monroe, 1926.
Strong.
Oh, super strong. Mount Rushmore kind of strong.
Well, I ain't going that far. I'll just say strong.
All right.
I'll say real strong.
We would both concur on that one. One of my all-time favorites. I talk about his movies all the time. I talk about one in particular, Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman's 86 today. You won't find a bigger fan of Shawshank Redemption than me. It is.
I agree.
I
loved him in Along Came a Spider.
He's great in that. He's great in Seven.
Oh my goodness. Him and Brad Pitt in Seven.
So good. It's such a good movie.
That final scene out in the desert.
Oof.
Oh my goodness.
Oof. But there's a lot. I'll tell you an underrated, I think, or maybe I don't know if it's underrated, but it doesn't get talked about enough. Lean on Me. He's unbelievable in that.
Sam, you smoke crack, don't you?
They used to call me Crazy Joe. Now they call me Batman. Yes. Oh my God. All right. So Morgan Freeman, just phenomenal. Tom Holland, the young actor, played Spider-Man. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's good. He's very good, man. His career's just building. He's going to be massive, I think. British guy, but he's very, very good. He's 27 today. Andy Griffith. Yeah. Andy Griffith, man. Mayberry, walking along the pond in the creek, about to go fishing with Opie. And he was so good in that role, man. He was just so good as the sheriff in the town.
He didn't play many other roles. That was his claim to fame.
Yeah.
And he played it so well. Good old country boy sheriff. Him and Don Knotts, Barney Fife.
They were perfect together.
Perfect compliment for each other.
Yep. Right on. Chris is right, by the way. So Morgan Freeman's career actually really started with the Electric Company back in the early 70s.
Yes.
Which was the show that came on, at least in this area, right after Sesame Street.
Yes. Yep. So correct. Good call, Chris.
That's it, Chris.
You're right about that.
Beyond that, Heidi Klum is 50.
Strong.
Yes.
Still strong.
Still. Alanis Morissette is 49 years young today.
Yeah.
Sarah Wayne Callis is 46 today. Good actress.
Yeah.
Terry
The
Polo.
Walking Dead.
Yeah, The Walking Dead. Terry Polo, who was in, among other things, like Meet the Fockers, Meet the Parents. She was Ben Stiller's wife in that series. She's good in it. 54 years old.
She's from Dover, Delaware.
Did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, from Dover.
Right.
Yeah.
Nick Young, Swaggy P, former Sixer, longtime NBA player, is 38 years old today. Actor Powers Booth was born, 1948.
I loved him in Sin City and Deadwood.
Very good. He's very good. Very intense actor. Cleavon Little, who I thought was awesome in almost everything he was ever in, but Blazing Saddles was just ridiculous.
Still one of my all-time favorite go-to movies.
Yeah, it is.
Mongo, him and Mongo.
Mongo and the horse. Oh, my God. Oh, where do we start?
When the first time I saw it, they punched the horse in the face and got that horse to drop like that.
Yeah.
Dude, classic.
Would never be made today, but one of the all-timers, man. One of the all-timers. Ronnie Wood, the great guitarist for the Stones, is 76 years old today. Pat Boone, the old singer, actor, 89 years old today. Paula Malcolmson is 53. She played the wife on Ray Donovan. She was very good in that. Edward Woodward, he was a British stage actor in a lot of ways, but he also played the Equalizer in the TV show. If you remember back in the 80s, he was very good in that. And of course, the Denzel movies are awesome. Equalizer. Sophia Hublitz is 24 years old. She was in Ozark. She was the daughter in Ozark. Nikki Glaser, the comedian, is 39 years old today.
You talk about foul mouth funny.
Oh
my goodness,
she's out there, man. We had her on Breakfast on Broad, and let's just say the higher ups were very scared that she was going to say something inappropriate. Now she didn't, to her credit, she didn't. But the suits, as they say, Derek, were not. Were worried. They were worried. We got through it. But I love Nikki. I think she's just raw and she doesn't care. There's not a lot of bleeps given with her. All right. You got any other birthdays? Then we'll do movies.
Oh, man, I got a whole list for you, brother.
All right.
We got Jonathan Pryce, 76 years old, was in Tomorrow Never Dies and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yep.
Danielle Harris, who's in the Halloween movie series, like the Jason movies, 46. Renee Auberjonois played in Benson, the old comedy series.
Oh, yeah,
Benson.
yeah. Okay. I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah. He was born on this day in 1940.
Okay.
Lisa Hartman Black, Knots Landing from 1982 to 1986. She's 67 today.
Yep.
Do you know who Frank Morgan is?
I don't.
Frank Morgan, if you remember the original Wizard of Oz that came out in 1939,
yeah,
he was the guy that played the wizard. With the guy behind the curtain, the wizard behind the curtain.
Oh, he was the wizard.
Yes, he was the wizard. Now, here's the thing. He played 6 different roles in that movie. And now when I found it out, I'm thinking about it. That was him. Now, you've watched The Wizard of Oz many times, I'm sure.
A ton.
Okay. Did you know he was Professor Marvel? Remember the guy that driving the coach with the horse who picked up Dorothy? He was Professor Marvel. He was the gatekeeper at
I remember
Emerald
that.
City.
Yep.
He was also the coachman. He was also the Emerald City guard who initially wouldn't let Dorothy and her contingent in.
That's crazy. So he played all of those roles. I didn't know.
All of
I
those
never
roles.
knew that.
And remember the scary face projection when you see it?
Oh,
he played that role.
Frightening.
Yeah, he played that role also. He played 6 different roles.
Yep. Yeah, that was the music.
Yeah. He played 6 different roles there. He was born on this day in 1890.
Oh, wow.
Willow Shields from the Hunger Game movie series is 23 today.
Yep.
Sylvia Hoeks, who was in Blade Runner 2049 and The Girl in the Spider Web, is 40. Former NFL receiver Santana Moss is 44.
Mm-hmm.
Former NHL great Paul Coffey is 62.
Yep.
Carlos Zambrano, the pitcher, 42 years old today.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Schiano, football coach. Greg Schiano is 57.
Yep.
Brigham Young, the founder of Brigham Young University, was born on this day in 1801. Pat Corley, who played in the old Murphy Brown and Hill Street Blues, is 93 today.
Jeez.
And Brian Colangelo, the former 76ers GM, is 57.
Okay. Good list. All right, let's do some movies here. We will start with Knocked Up from 2007.
Yep.
Funny movie.
Funny.
Really good. Total Recall, 1990. Yep. Love that movie.
Yep.
Moulin Rouge, 2001. Snow White Huntsman, 2012.
I love that movie. Love it.
Very good movie. 2005, Sisterhood of Traveling Pants. Asphalt Jungle, 1950, one of the old school classics. What else you got, Derek?
The last one I have is a movie called Adrift, which came out in 2018.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, that was I thought that was a good one. There are a lot of good ones there, that's for sure. So here's what we have, Derek. Coming up tomorrow, we will run through the Phillies and the Mets. The series finale is today. We'll go through that. Eagles continue their OTAs. One of the things Jordan Davis had to say was he feels like he's in a much better shape in terms of knowing the system, knowing what's expected of him, and knowing what his role is going to be. So that's positive. We will rehash everything that Nick Nurse had to say at his introductory press conference, which is going to be at 3:00. And obviously we'll go over what went down in game 1 of the NBA finals. So we're looking forward to that too. According to multiple sources, it looks like it's a long shot for DeAndre Hopkins to sign with the Bills for whatever reason. So somebody's putting that out there.
Can I give you some advice?
Yes, please.
Don't watch the Phillies game right now.
Don't turn it on.
Don't. I'm going to turn it on because
I was going to take the dog for a walk. I might be better off getting some air.
I'm going to turn the game on just because I'm going to sit there and go, Rob ain't going to like this. Rob is not going to like this.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you right now.
All right.
It's a nice warm day outside.
Yeah, I'm taking the dog.
I've still got laundry I have to fold. I've got a bunch of towels and clothes I got to fold here. So I'm going to sit here on the couch in my bedroom and watch the game, and and just basically go, yeah, Rob is going to be in a rare mood tomorrow. We're going to end this week in rare mood with Rob tomorrow. So
I'm taking the dog out then. It's official.
I saw a comment while we were talking that said Schwarber sucks, and as I looked down, the Mets had just scored another run. So I don't know what Schwarber did or did not do. So I'll just leave it at that.
Oh God!
With that said, I know exactly what you're going to do. Soon as we say goodbye, you're going to turn the TV on and watch the rest of the game because it's only in the 6th inning. So I know you're going to watch it.
I can't help myself.
I know.
I'm an addict. All right.
I tried to prepare you.
Yeah, I know. You're looking out for me. All right. That'll do it for us. Want to thank everybody in the chat section, everybody streaming, everybody listening. We always appreciate you. Tell a friend. Spread the word.
That's right, Barbara Carroll. You and I got to watch the game. We have to. It's a must, Barbara. We have to watch the game.
Thanks to Tone DeShields. Tone, great job, man, producing the program. And we are back at it tomorrow. Don't go anywhere, by the way. You get the National Football Show with Dan Cilio. So everybody have a great rest of your Thursday. We will see you Friday, same time.
Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.